All right, everybody, we are here for the first official Something About Soccer watch party on the official channel. Something new for us. Boys, how are we doing? Biz, I'll start with you.
Make sure my mic's on for the debut. I'm doing good. Excited to, I think, just format this into I feel like we're officially ready to go now on the Something About Soccer, just like conglomerate of channels. I don't know how we want to even say it, with all the different stuff that we have for the socials now. But it feels like it's officially official now with having an actual Twitch channel for it. But yeah, excited for it. We were talking about just kind of the excitement level for this game with maybe the unexciting soccer and product that we might be watching. But yeah, excited to be here with you guys and get this started.
First picks, how are we doing?
Yeah, I can't complain. Doing all right.
Red Bull 0-0. I like that. That sounds about, par
Man, a few words.
yeah. So I missed a couple of the games because I was out this weekend. But really happy that we got to hold Atlanta to a point because I think that's a scary team. But Biz was watching the game, so I have my man on the ground who's giving me a little bit of an inside scoop. But yeah, I'm just excited for this game because I haven't really seen too much of this team in St. Louis. I've seen a lot of Galaxy. So it's going to be interesting kind of seeing a team that I do know pretty well facing up against a team that I really, don't know very well at all. So it's going to be an interesting game. And, I hope Galaxy can pull something off here.
I really hope so too. And before I give my little update, I want to say thank you for everyone coming in today. Up the Mariners, Brandon, Brightman, and Maddie. Thank you for the followers. And of course, everyone who followed the channel right as we were, getting it going. Want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Sapolo, Mariners, Picks, obviously talking to the people as well as Biz, All Dinga, Bad Smurf, and everyone lurking. We really do appreciate you guys. We're excited. I'm excited. Galaxy have scored 1 goal in 3 games. St. Louis have scored 0. And we can talk about that a little bit here in terms of what we have for today's stream, what to expect, and like I said, kind of that first watch party that we're doing on the Something About Soccer page. And I know Biz mentioned it a little bit. Between the two teams, they have scored 1 goal in 3 games. I'm hoping that's not what we see today. But Biz, do you want to kind of run us through the first 2 St. Louis games to give us a little bit of a primer of what we may expect today against the Galaxy?
Yeah, so both games that we saw, I will say candidly with St. Louis City, I'm actually excited that we are doing them as part of this. Granted, we've already done the Galaxy, so we have a little bit of maybe a familiarity with the identity of what the Galaxy are going to be like. But St. Louis, I would say just being a new team, for me personally, I actually mentioned to you guys before we went live that they're one of the teams that I would say I've probably watched the least. And that's just because, one, they're one of the newest teams in the MLS. Up until San Diego joined, they were the newest team in the MLS, being one of the newest expansion sides. But the other thing for me personally, being in the Midwest, they are kind of like right in line with us playing time zone wise often. So a lot of times their start times are pretty congruent with the Minnesota United start time. So I don't get to watch them a ton. So them playing a Sunday night soccer standalone is kind of interesting. The one thing that I can tell you is that this 0-0 play styles is not exactly what I would have expected if you would have told me to predict how their games go out of the gate. They play a very fun, fast, high intensity pressing style. So 0-0 between both results with where Colorado and San Diego are to start the year, both being above the playoff line early on, does, maybe allude to them with the 0-0 starts maybe being in a little bit of a better spot than where the Galaxy might say they are, if you're actually kind of looking at like fortunes for both. But kind of a tale of two different teams right now, based on what those 0-0s mean. Because if you look at it on the other side too, also that St. Louis has been stout defensively, so they at least have that going for them. The goals might not be going in, but they have also been able to kind of shore up the back line and just kind of have that to hang their hat on going into this.
Yeah, I guess I can give my kind of report in terms of the Galaxy, what we've seen through the first 3 games. San Diego against LA, and I feel like Vancouver against LA were two similar-ish games in regards to what the Galaxy provided from on-field, spectacle. Lack of midfield strength. In that first game, the first goal that we gave up against San Diego was just a defensive mistake, and then late on we were pushing, and Dreyer caught us on a counterattack. Against Vancouver, it just seemed like for most of the game they were the better of the teams, and Brian White caught us at the end. Similarly, we were going for it. They catch us on a nice, I can't remember if it was I think it was off a corner or a free kick. It wasn't like the ball in wasn't from a set piece, but it might have been, a set piece that set that up. And Brian White was kind of uncontested for a game-winning header. I just think the Galaxy right now, with all the injuries that they have, are struggling to, create chances for the players that they have at top. I mean, we have Miguel Berry leading the line. He is like a late-game pressing forward, not a starting 9. And losing Joveljic is a bit of a bummer. We're waiting for a young Brazilian in Nascimento to get back from injury to hopefully lead the line. But really, players of note in terms of getting forward and being real difference makers is just Peck. No Paintsill, no Ricky Pooch. One of our wingbacks, Yamane, is also hurt as well. So just been kind of a bummer. And then going down, playing Herediano away. Couldn't really get anything going there, so we'll have that game up next week to see if we can go forward in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But it's been sad watching the Galaxy to start, especially, coming as, defending champions. And also, me personally being a Tottenham fan, I hope Galaxy could have given me a little bit of joy, but it's the same feelings. I'm getting the same feelings. But, it's hardening me. We can only go up from here if you take a look at the standings there. 15th place for the Galaxy, obviously just 2 games played, but a lot to improve on. Picks, I know you said you didn't know too much about St. Louis coming into the season and haven't watched them a ton, but can you give any insight into what you've seen from the Galaxy so far?
Yeah, for sure. I watched, obviously we watched on the channel the Herediano game, and then I also watched the second leg, I'm planning on watching the second leg, because I'm super excited for that at home. And I think that, it was really disappointing the fact that Galaxy couldn't get even 1 goal away. And I think that says a lot about where they're in, where it's like, Greg Vanney, I think most coaches would, be very smart to just say, like, I would rather, get the away goal and maybe lose this game against St. Louis, just so I could secure it and rest a couple players when we play, at the Galaxy. So you have that away goal, because we still have away goals in the Champions League. So it's like, I think that the fact that there was no production and there was no real big threats out of Galaxy in that game is a really, really big worry.
Yeah.
And especially going up, with a St. Louis that has been so well defensively, it's going to be interesting to see if they're even going to be able to, how many shots on target are they going to be able to do? When you say that they're really good defensively, is it more like they're able to stop chances from created, or they just create poor chances? Like they force you into poor chances, Biz.
So I'll say this for both. I'll kind of recap both defenses, and because I actually kind of wanted to touch on a point too with the difference in these teams and kind of what the score lines are telling. Because I think the game models are super different on like how both are trying to accomplish what they're trying to do. I think if you're looking at it and you told St. Louis City supporters that they were not going to score any goals out of their first couple games, obviously, I think any team is going to be concerned about that, but I don't think that necessarily means that they don't think they would walk away with no points. I think if you told Galaxy fans that ahead of the season, that they were not going to score any goals through 3 games, I think the likelihood of them walking away with points is significantly different. And that's not even me like trashing LA Galaxy. It's just they play differently. They play a faster model. They have built their team in a way that has emphasized the ability to be able to score goals and have a high output to be able to match whatever maybe they lack on a deficiency side of the ball defensively. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that they've been very transparent, even in their cup run this past year, that is not necessarily going to be their strength. They're really laying into more of the high octane ball where it's if they get down early, it's we're just going to keep coming out at wave after wave after wave, and that's really been fueled by Ricky Puig and having those straight line runners and the speed of Gabriel Peck and Joseph Painsil on the outside. So you're missing 2 out of the 3 of those options right now, and it is very, very apparent. So I think that's something that for Galaxy fans, that's a big concern. And then we've also talked about the midfield being such a concern. I think just with no Puig, obviously that's like the first red flag. But I mean, they've even lost 2 key pieces that were part of Gaston Brugman. LAFC with Marky Delgado. So all of the pieces that were a part of that cup run, all of a sudden, those are gone. So it's having to have a lot of young players step in and and I think the expectations that were set aside for LA Galaxy early on in the year, when you have a team that is coming off of an MLS Cup win, walking into game number, this is game number 3 of the MLS season, and you have no points and you're at the very bottom of the Western Conference. That's the thing that is super staggering, and it makes it maybe look even a little bit worse than it is. We had just mentioned too, when we were looking over the injury list that they had present when I was looking through the rosters that they had for this game. And I mean, we're talking 4 starters right now, significant starters that are not playing now that you've added Mickey Yamane, who's an outside back that's probably more of an attacking wing back in his own right too, which is combining with usually on Peck's side. So it's like you have all of these different things that are making up what this slow start is. So I do think the Galaxy should be concerned, because I do think like anytime you're in the MLS and you're dropping the level of points that you are early on, it does start to make it, it just makes it infinitely harder to get back up over the course of the season. But they're definitely not out of it. 9 teams make the playoffs, on each side of the conference. So there's definitely hope in that regard. And having Ricky Puig in, that's why they haven't done anything necessarily with putting him on a season-ending like injured reserve or anything like that. They're kind of holding out hope that they can still get to that, maybe that playing game, get into those mid-tier playoff spots just based on what they have available. So both teams have those different identities defensively, but I think it's affecting the Galaxy more. St. Louis is definitely capable of holding a team. To kind of long form answer your question picks, but I kind of wanted to morph those into something that I wanted to touch on what Dill was saying too about how much it has affected the Galaxy, because I do think it's very significant. And the one thing I was going to say too, actually, because I wanted to make sure that we get this into Dill. Did you have before I transitioned into kind of my points? Did you have anything that you wanted to just kind of share about the Galaxy any further than that? Because I was going to go into just some of the things to look for like kind of diving further into team identities and things like that. But did you have anything for the Galaxy side of things you wanted to share quick?
I feel like the Galaxy kind of just have to do what they can while they're trying to get their players back. I know I mentioned it before. It's very reminiscent of Tottenham. It's just a lot of injuries to key guys where it feels like we need to find our identity. We need to find how we can grind away, get into, that between that 5th and 10th spot while we bide our time for our best players to come back. And I think they just need to get comfortable in finding new ways to score, because, we were so dependent on that front 3. And honestly, I think you made a great point in the first game. I really just miss Mark Delgado. I didn't know I was going to be saying that, but I really miss him in the midfield. And I don't think it helps too that we also lost Brugman too. I feel like losing one of them would have been okay, but losing both just leaves such a hole. And the guy, the backup from the academy that we have in there is definitely more just an out and out like ball winning midfielder. And he doesn't give you the versatility that Delgado and Brugman gave us. So that's just a little disappointing. Yamane, I miss as well. I just want us to find a little bit of momentum, score a couple goals, get back to what LA Galaxy ball was. But, at the end of the day, the team looks a lot different to start the season. So is it realistic to expect that? I don't really think so. I just think we need to find a way to grind some wins out in the meantime while we kind of wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at on top of it too, if you're looking at some of the names in here in comparison from this year to last year, if you're looking at the Galaxy roster, so teams are coming out. St. Louis City is running a 4-3-3. Galaxy are running a 4-3-2-1. But we were touching on that, off camera before we went live.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen to some of these names in place. So Mickey Amane obviously out. So you're starting Harbor Miller, who's a 17-year-old right back. Now on the outside, so that's going to be Marco Royce, Gabriel Peck, and then Harbor Miller over on the right hand side. But then on the left hand side, one of your primary creators in the left attacking mid spot is a player by the name of Isaiah Parente.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's all of these different shifts in players that maybe weren't getting time. Diego Fagundes is getting an extended run now, which is kind of an MLS journeyman name that a lot of people that follow MLS might be familiar with. But there's a lot of players and the quality and just the style. And I think on top of it too, Greg Vanney's system is really it's kind of well known that it's an intricate system that requires some time in it before players, I think, start to get comfortable in it. And I think that's also something that's kind of showing with where we're at right now too, with kind of a plug and play style where these players are coming into the fold and clearly struggling to adapt to things quickly, and they've had to almost kind of just like adapt stylistically on what they're doing. I noticed, and I actually made the comment to my brother when I was kind of seeing what the Herediano game with LA Galaxy looked like Gabriel Peck dropping into space more often instead of just kind of like trying to be an out-and-out winger. He was getting more inside and into the middle of the field and actually trying to, I think, combine and be more of a playmaker and trying to take that role, which I do think is what the Galaxy probably need to do in order to be successful going forward with this too. So yeah, it's just not the Galaxy team that we're used to seeing, which I think is really, really interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting, like Juan saying, bring back Ibra, bring back Gerard, bring back, all these names. And I think it's really interesting how
Royce.
Galaxy have completely like shifted themselves from doing that. I think Royce is kind of the exception.
Yeah.
But like bringing in, a Ricky Puig and bringing in a Paintsill and bringing in a Peck, these big name players who are only, in their early 20s, mid 20s, and like having that shift over of Galaxy bringing in those superstars and having them more so have the stars, the stars be made up by the Galaxy, I think is kind of, really interesting about how they're focusing more on the youth. But it's really ironic how it's come back to bite them in the ass, where it's like with those old players, you kind of take account for, we're not going to be able to play them all 90 minutes, or we're not going to be able to play them every single game. Whereas with the younger guys, you kind of expect more. So it's just like, it's a little bit, it kind of sucks that it's happening this to Galaxy, especially with these three key injuries. If it had just been a Paintsill, if it had just been Peck, I think we would be in a different story, especially because it's like there's like also like an over reliance on Puig in a sense too, where it's like the system is a little bit too built on him, and obviously getting rid of those two midfielders was just like, I don't know, obviously hindsight's 2020, but it was a bad idea of getting rid of those guys who already know the system and have been training and watching the system for the past 2 seasons.
And it's tough too, because I do think that's always the thing that you see in MLS that happens. And sometimes the choice isn't necessarily even within the team's choice. It's you've built a roster in a certain way under a salary cap, and you often will see a team that hits the heights at some point over that run, whether it's considered a dynasty over a couple of years where you do win a couple MLS Cups. Eventually that team is going to get broken up. It's very similar to other American sports, because the salary cap, you start to see salary cap casualties. Players want to make more money. Players want to, be compensated for how well they're playing. And you can only do that for so long in the MLS system that teams are going to have to offload a lot of those key role players. And you have to, prioritize who is the important players to that structure and kind of weigh those options out. So it's what makes the league so unique, because you have a team that just won the MLS Cup that is, out of the gates is dead last, and a team that just came in as an expansion side that's sitting in second place right now. So it's, I mean, it's a very unique style. And I think that's why MLS is, obviously I have a team that I support in it, but it's why it is so interesting and unique to me, because there's not a lot of leagues like that where you have that scenario where a top end team is struggling out of the gates. Doesn't mean that they're, they're going to just set up shop there and stay there, but it is something that is very unlike a lot of what you see around the world in the sport. So,
and it's super interesting to see, because that's something that, like, throughout, my experience at sports, it's always been just the normal transfer market, where it's like, if a player doesn't want to go to a team, he's never going to have to go. So I was actually watching the Hard Knocks offseason of the Giants, and I feel like that gave me such more insight into like how the MLS style is, trying to emulate the style that the NFL has. And like, I didn't really have that context until I watched that like that documentary, The Hard Knocks on the Giants off season, and I was seeing like the salary cap and all that stuff, and I was like, dude, they're just ripping it off from the NBA or from the NFL.
Yeah, I mean it's true, and I think like the proven model of like how that works is definitely why MLS is trying to gear a lot of they're trying to pull in a lot of the casual fan base. I think is where a lot of the identity comes from. But the one thing I wanted to ask you guys, because I knew we would do a lot of LA Galaxy discussion, being that it's Dill's squad, and harping on them before the slow start. I knew that would be what a lot of the pregame would be. But I do want to ask you guys, just out of curiosity, because I'll give you a little bit about St. Louis City, because they're the team that I think we probably, as we mentioned, know the least about. What do you guys know about St. Louis City? Whether it's players, whether it's teams, whether it's players, whether it's staff, like anything about the city, like give me just kind of like your base knowledge of it, and then I'll kind of fill you guys in on some of the things and their time and tenure in the league.
Sure. Yeah, I'll start if you don't mind. So yeah, I remember them when they first came in as their expansion team. I kept up with them a little bit, and they were just off to a crazy start. And I remember that it was super unexpected because of the fact that a lot of people didn't expect their rebuild and the players that they brought in to all mesh together super well. But a player who I've always really liked is Berkey. And obviously, I think that the goalkeeper is one of the positions that it could either have one of the biggest impacts on the team or the least impact, depending on how big the goalkeeper is into like setting the play and stuff like that. And I think that Berkey really showed his style and his class by making him, such a good, name for himself with St. Louis. So it was just really
unfamiliar too. For people unfamiliar too, you're referencing. So Berkey's their designated player. A lot might know he's talking about the Berkey from Dortmund that used to be at Borussia Dortmund. That's where he ended up, was St. Louis City. He's one of the designated players there. So sorry to interject, Pix, but
yeah, no, perfect.
I still think it's kind of goofy that he's there, to be honest with you.
Because he's still pretty young relatively. So it's like that player, really pushed them forward. And, a lot of people in the MLS, I wasn't following the MLS terribly, terribly closely, but a lot of people were expecting, St. Louis to really struggle off the gates. So to have them, be so, impressive in the beginning was something that was very surprising for a lot of people. But still like a team that I don't really keep up with to this day. A lot of names and players that I don't really know. So that's what I've been saying, that I'm pretty excited to watch them.
Yeah. What about you, Dill? Where are you about in the St. Louis ball knowledge?
Oh, so I thought you meant in regards to just the city. Like, is this just St. Louis MLS or the city itself, or anything about it?
I mean, anything.
Pulling up a map. He was like, I gotta make sure I know where it is.
Dude, honestly, the only really thing I just remember, they had that hot start. They had João Klaus from the start as their kind of main nine. That was an exciting one, and then Berkey. But I honestly don't know too much, because I think when St. Louis came around, that was when I first started paying attention to MLS, and it kind of reminded me with their hot start of like the Las Vegas Knights in hockey, kind of starting hot as well. And it kind of was a little bit weird to me how these expansion teams can start so good. But really, that's all I really know about St. Louis City. I feel like this is a team I oftentimes forget about when I'm like going through MLS teams. No disrespect to St. Louis,
fair.
But
it's totally fair. I think the biggest thing that I would say, and I'm actually glad that I had you guys kind of preface it, because I think that a lot of people would share a lot of those probably same thoughts on St. Louis since they've been in the league. I think that they've done it the right way, mainly because they're not this like crazy high profile team. I don't think they're going to be considered like this really big spenders. At least to this point, things can always change and adapt. They do have a backing of a pretty strong ownership group. It's actually the first female majority owned ownership group in MLS. So it's actually the family that owns Enterprise Rent-A-Car is like kind of the chief operators behind it. One of the family members, I think, is the main owner. But yeah, it's an interesting situation because from the get-go, they've not really shied away from having an identity, which I think is really rare for expansion sides out of the gate sometimes. I think San Diego's done a very good job of it too out of the gates with identifying that. But that was something I think, like, for us out of the gates for Minnesota United, I can definitely attest to saying that was something I think for a few years that we really struggled with, like having an identity, because there wasn't enough financial backing out of the gates to really sculpt one. So St. Louis City having enough to make that happen, I think, is really unique. They've also kind of done the whole spare no expense on some of the back end stuff too, with I think like who they've put in charge, how they've gone about their recruitment strategies and things like that. So for anyone that doesn't know, their general manager and the person kind of running as like their like sporting director is the terminology you'd see in Europe, is a guy by the name of Lutz Pfannenstiel. He's the director of scout. He used to be the director of scouting and international relations at Hoffenheim. So he was there for a good long portion of time. Believes in like a high pressing style, which is really radiated through St. Louis City since their start. And they've already kind of had a fascinating get go with some of the coaching that's been there. I've referenced that it has been a little bit of a tumultuous time, but Bradley Carnell was there in year number 1 and actually guided them to the top seed in the West, which was, for an expansion side, that's incredibly rare to come out of the gates being that quick, especially for a team that's not spending a ton of money, like an Atlanta United was in their first couple seasons where they were really being successful. So Carnell was there for that number 1 season wonder run. He's currently with Philadelphia Union right now, with 9 points in 3 games in their start. So he's still doing successful in the league, but he actually was let go in season 2 halfway through the season after a slow start. And it actually kind of surprised a lot of people because it was just like not feeling like he had a lot of leash to a lot of leeway to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. But so interim was John Hackworth that took over for the remainder of the year, kind of had bounced around the MLS and was part of the front office at St. Louis at the time. And then a lot of people were saying that Hackworth should just get the job because he ended up finishing up the season really well. But then they went outside of the league and went into Europe and hired a former player, now turned manager, in the name of Olaf Melberg. So some European ball knowers might know Olaf Melberg because he actually played for Juve and Aston Villa at certain points. He's a Swedish, I believe, defender. But he was hired in November this year, so he's only two games in, doesn't have a ton of management experience. He had like some okay time over in Sweden managing just kind of back in his own nation. So but I mean, no like league championships or anything like that, nothing like to really write home about. It was just kind of an average mundane start for his league career. I think he was only averaging like 1.2 points a game, nothing really insane. So for that, with Pfannenstiel being installed as the sporting director, I think it's really interesting for that because Pixel actually mentioned it, and I'm glad that he did. But there's a giant German contingent that's come over here in their recruitment strategies. So a lot of German players you'll see filled throughout the starting 11, and that includes their designated players for the most part. Obviously, Berkey came from the Bundesliga himself with Dortmund. It isn't German himself. But then you also have 2 players that are with João Klaus, being a designated player that Dill alluded to as well. A big, kind of big brooding target forward.
One thing
that
I noticed with the game getting close to start, 0 goals in his last 18 MLS matches for João Klaus.
Wow,
correct. Wow. He's been really struggling. So I was actually interested to see him in the starting 11. And then you also have Marcel Hartel, who is their newest designated player signing that came over from FC St. Pauli. So 7 Germans on the roster currently.
Wow.
Is what Pixel ended up finding out. So kind of a cool thing with that, where that is definitely one of those things that I know when we talk about playing like Football Manager and stuff, like finding those little pockets of information about like what makes this team unique, like what makes them different. Yeah. St. Louis City is, we'll call them Little Germany, similar to i.e. my Little America save, where they really are focusing on a lot of like players that there's familiarity with there for Pfannenstiel, which I think is really unique.
I was going to ask, I was going to say, is there any other teams besides maybe, one of the Californian teams with, some Mexican nationals that have such a large presence of like a specific nationality? Because I can't think of anything. And I think Mexico, I think that's kind of, especially bordering it right there.
That's
sure.
7. 7's a lot of one nationality.
7 is a lot. Yeah, 7 is a lot.
I think that's really interesting to have like the team and like that the fact that St. Louis has given the director of football all of that leeway to just get Germans and specifically. Because that we don't really see that too much in the MLS, where it's like a makeup of specifically people from one country.
That's a good point.
So it's really interesting, and it's like a lot of teams do try to get like, especially like Latin Americans, just because they all speak the same language, and they get them like, so that they can, especially like Puig even was saying in the documentary about like how happy he was everyone speaks Spanish even in training and stuff like that. But this is to a different different goal and a different kind of method too. So it's interesting to see the different styles of liberties that MLS teams kind of give their directors of footballs.
Yeah, I would say the closest thing that I can think of just offhand, and this is only because I've just done a little bit of research for these watch parties for the last little bit of time. But I mean, the closest thing I can think of early on is San Diego with the Danish players. Now that we have that loose,
That's a good
well,
shout.
not loose, that affiliation with like the Right to Dream Academy being there. So I'll be curious to see if that continues to grow with like the Norseland tie, but. That's really the only other thing that I could think of where there's like multiples.
The only one I think of is Chicago. Sometimes has 2 to 3 Swiss players at a time because their affiliation with Lugano. They loan in guys or buy players from them, and then they often sell players to Lugano. They have a pretty strong affiliation with them. But that's all I can think of. I just think.
You don't like the badge?
What
the St. Louis badge?
Yeah, Zapolo said in chat that he doesn't like the badge. I agree.
I like the badge. I actually like the badge. I want to see what Dill thinks. Sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah, I don't like it. It looks like a NBA 2K like created one or something.
It does.
Like,
I like the arch though. I think that it's cool that they included that. I think it is cool, but the rest of it is.
I can guarantee you, with what that looks like, I could totally envision a St. Louis City rebrand in like a solid 5 to 10 years already. Like, I think they can definitely do better than that.
Yeah, I don't like it. They should just bring back some sort of they do their own version of the Rams. I just like everyone. I think it's such a trope, but like mid 90s branding, early 2000s branding for MLS and just sports in the US is just the best. But it's just so
like
over the
Kansas
top.
City Wizards.
Yeah,
that kid is so iconic.
I miss stuff like that.
I wish they were still called the Wizards. I've always been bitter. That's considered like our biggest rival. So that gives me. But moving away from that team name is just like that's atrocious. Calling yourself Sporting Kansas City instead of the Kansas City Wizards is just
the Wizards is so dumb, and the colors were so cool too.
Yeah. No, iconic early portions. I agree with Zapolo too. Saying I think it is the vertical letters on the St. Louis City logo that like throw me for
That's
a loop.
weird. I don't
that.
understand.
It is
that.
like, you got to like turn the logo to the side to read.
I got to get this timer ready. The big game's about to start.
But yeah, okay. Early predictions. What do we have here? Officially, did we have score lines? Obviously, we all picked the game individually. But did we have?
Yeah, remind them what you guys said about this game. Well, I forget.
Yeah, let me. Hold on.
I'm pretty sure I went for Galaxy.
I know Pix did. I think Biz went against me.
Let me.
Me personally, you went against me.
I'm
1-1 with the predictions as well. I got Minnesota right. I needed Red Bulls to win, but they tied.
Yep. So we all had Galaxy win actually. Okay. I have Atlanta win, Minnesota United win, Galaxy.
I didn't mean to slander you guys.
Yeah, I totally got slandered. But all right, we're underway. Another night of Sunday Night Soccer. Officially.
God dang it. That's crazy.
Sorry, you're only 4 seconds behind. You're good. 5-0 St. Louis win, Maddie says. 3-1 Batsman for saying for Galaxy. I think you were saying Galaxy Batsman if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, much love, guys, for the follows too, and just everybody being in here for the first round.
For the first one.
Yeah, it's cool to officially have like a real channel that we can come and just have this organized now and not have to bounce around.
It is, Quan.
Whenever
you just have to be
Dill's unable to make it or whatever.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Yep.
Yeah, so we should definitely in the future make a command or a timer in terms of where to watch the specific game. It's just making a new channel. I just forget all the stuff that you have to do for the first time. It's so many things. But in terms of what I expect from this game, oh no, let's not do this, guys. Okay, he got it behind him. Oh shit. Galaxy 2-0. I'm hoping. That's hopeful. I don't know if that's realistic.
I'm probably gonna go with 1-0 for Galaxy.
Okay.
I am gonna say 2-1.
Okay.
Galaxy win. I think that there will be goals in this game.
The only guy I'm not super familiar with on the Galaxy is this Pantera guy. I don't know if this is one of the guys that came through Academy and got a debut like a week or two ago, or this is a different player that I just don't know, but I'm not super familiar with him. He looks young. I feel like I saw an Instagram post about him. But he's playing...
this one's call players up for the Phillips spots from the youth teams.
Yeah, with our social media account, the fact that the fact that I'm as plugged in as I am now on just like MLS news on all the stuff we follow for the SAS Twitter account, the fact that I don't know who that guy is, that's not good.
I want to say he is like an academy guy that we pulled up. I'm gonna look it up really quick because now it's bothering
Yeah,
me.
the Red Bulls have been doing that. We just got a guy who scored on his debut, who's been playing kind of Lewis Morgan's position.
Parente, I'm calling him Pantera. Jesus.
Just a band shit.
Oh no, he's from. All right, let's see. I mean the Wikipedia. We got him from the Columbus Crew. In 2023, he went to Ventura County FC, and then we signed him in 2024. So for this last season, apparently.
Okay.
I don't know much about him though. There's not really much info on him. Played college soccer at Wake Forest. Yeah, born from Ohio. Yeah, not much.
Yeah, early on, this is looking about as chaotic as I would have expected this game to be with a high press from St. Louis City. I think this will be I do think that this will be a little bit of an adventure, just because on top of it too, I'm kind of wondering how long Vanny will continue to just like have them determined to play out of the back with no Ricky Bouge to bail them out. I do think like that might get walked back on just style of play here. I just think
it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
No.
It's just too easy of a way to give away possession for a team that like when your weakness is like just your defenders. I think both on the ball and just like pretty much everything with like speed and all that stuff. It's like you are just playing right into a team's hands by just like following into allowing them to counter press you nonstop. And like I don't get that decision. So I'll be curious to see how long that they choose to do that game over game.
One thing I also don't love is that with our kind of lack of more offensive options with the injuries, us going with John Nelson, who's more of a typical fullback, over Julian Odd, who's such a pacey wingback. I feel like we miss out on that as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Let me double check if he's not starting on the right wing though, because we do kind of move him around sometimes. Or the right wing.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing a lot of St. Louis moving.
No, it's a Harbor Miller over there.
Miller, yeah. So, yeah, that confuses me a little bit as well too.
Is Ade hurt? I know
No,
that
he's been on the bench.
I feel like he's kind of on Vanny's shit list a little bit. I think.
Yeah, he's on the bench. He's been on the bench for most of these games. Also, random signing that we grabbed too this year was Elijah Winder, Josh Winder's brother, the guy that went to the Benfica youth team, B team.
Wow.
So it's super random, and he's been pretty good when he's come on.
Yeah, he was good in USL.
Yeah.
From what I was reading, and that was actually something I'm going to try to pay more attention to USL this year, but I do already know that there's. I think I was thinking this to myself.
Just started last night too.
It did, and that's something that I've kind of wondered. For me being actually interested in it, what do you guys think about USL doing games on the same night as MLS? They're free to do it, obviously. Like, no hate, and obviously trying to grow your league how you want. But for me, being an MLS fan, I feel like it is kind of a goofy choice to not do it on a second day, so I can watch different games. Because I would give them viewership if it was on a Friday or a Friday.
Yeah, take the Friday and make it your own. I think that's a good idea.
I just feel like it's tough because a lot of them don't. I think it's more logistical. I think that's just where they can get those. A lot of them don't use their own venues. Like for instance, like Orange County plays at UC Irvine, which is a school, and things like that. But I don't know. Oh wow, that was actually not too bad.
Ooh, oh my gosh.
I don't know. I don't mind them going at the same time. But what do you say the alternative is? Friday?
I mean, yeah, other weekend days, really Friday, Sunday. I think like having that be kind of a definitive date that everyone knows when it is. And it's like, it's not to say that some days can't fall on Saturday, or even just like maybe always try to play your games during the day or something like that. Even if you're trying to do Saturday. Cause I just think like,
HDBR.
A large majority of your audience, you're probably pulling from MLS, MLS supporters in some capacity. So I do think it's just a little interesting that I feel like already for me, like you're minimizing the viewership abilities for those because perfect example, I think a large majority of the slate yesterday was from like 6 to 10:30.
They were late night
USL
games. I don't even know where you watch USL, like all to find it all in one place.
ESPN Plus, I believe, has them now. They signed, I think that's started like a couple of years ago or last year. It's recent, but
I also love MLS coaches just wearing graphic T-shirts.
I
It's
saw
just
that,
it's
yeah.
just so it's just such it's so like on the contrary to like the Prem.
Yeah, Vanny's definitely no frills businessman
Mm-hmm.
on the suit style.
And you got Olaf over there with just like the latest St. Louis graphic tee.
Yeah.
Just got it from the club shop
Yeah,
yesterday
Yep,
he's in
yep.
Cali.
before the
You
game.
know,
Yeah, he's all about
it's
the
chill. It's
team
chill.
merch stores.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's a marketing play.
it is.
But it's good weather here in LA, so good day. You know, one thing I do not like about the Galaxy Stadium is the insane like shade to sun. Like
That
it's
looks crazy.
It's
being
crazy.
where the camera's facing.
Yeah,
You
they're
just
just
get
getting
that
they're
the
getting
entire 90
torched on
minutes.
the other side
Yeah.
on the field. That was my least favorite thing about going to games. You know, like Angels games
mm-hmm.
growing up. There's like no shade, and you just get torched in a daytime game.
Yeah. No, that is tough. You would think now if they were to kind of do things over that there would be some kind of blueprint to help with that. That's something I've noticed that with a lot of there was a lot of MLS games. What was the 1:30 game that I watched yesterday? That was a big time problem too, where it's such a hard thing to kind of like deal with too when you're playing. I remember playing and stuff like that in stadiums, and that can be like a big time pain in the ass if it's really bad.
Yeah, NYCFC is obviously at Yankee Stadium is terrible because it's so open.
That's such a that's so funny to me that they play at Yankee Stadium. That just seems so
They're
like
not a real soccer team.
bizarre. That's your favorite team, right?
Yeah. I definitely do want to go to their stadium opening, though. I think it's going to be exciting, and I think
that'll be cool.
it's good for New York soccer. So.
You'll go undercover. You won't.
Yeah.
You'll drink a Red Bull there, but you won't wear any Red Bull merch.
We have some roofs in we have like 2 decks in ours, and we have like a roof on ours, so we don't really get too many issues with the sun.
Yeah, it's very team dependent.
Ours are modeled after like one in Austria too, so it's
okay.
like we try to make like a European style stadium in the Red Bull Arena.
One question, Biz, I apologize if you answered this earlier and I wasn't paying attention, but how are you guys doing in terms of predictions for the week as well? Did any of you predict a tie for the Atlanta and New York? I know Pix, you probably
No one did.
Atlanta
No, so we're both everybody's 1-1. So
Okay,
yeah, we'll kind of stay put for at least like trying to catch up to Dill this week. But yeah, 2-1 would be the best. But we'll all be 2-1 if the Galaxy wins. So
HD says Monster needs a football club. If you could pick one MLS team to be represented by Monster Energy, which one do you think works?
Nashville.
Nashville. It needs to be like the plate, like the Metal Militia type state, you know, just like high socks, backwards hat, just right on your eyebrows.
Well, you have green in logos for Portland and Austin.
Portland would definitely not be a Monster Energy.
Yeah, and Portland would not suit it. Austin,
Seattle?
maybe.
No,
Austin
Seattle
sold out to get a sports franchise.
Yeah.
To get the Monster there to help with
all three are kind of like hipster
I
like even
know.
Austin's like the hipster destination of Texas. So
yeah,
that'd be tough. Maybe if we get like if New Mexico
that'd be a good FM
got
save,
a
though.
MLS team.
Monster Energy purchases. I like it.
Oh, Harbor
or NYCFC, that'd be perfect.
Oh, that's what
Takes
New
over the
York
Man
has
City
resorted to. Monster Energy on the Man City kit.
That's the only way to make the stadium. That's the only way to get the stadium built.
From a sky view, it has like the monster claw marks. That's what it looks like. So this right back for the Galaxy is making his first MLS start. I also think that guy is from our academy, if I'm not mistaken, or we brought him.
Yeah,
from
at 17.
Okay.
I had heard them talking him up in the. I don't know if it was the Herediano game, maybe.
He was the one that came on and was like I think one of the youngest LA Galaxy debutants, and that's who I was going to be getting mixed up with Parente. But that
I've definitely heard through some of the podcasts I've listened to on a couple of the MLS things. The one thing that I do think is really interesting is the fact that is something that both Galaxy and LAFC have really struggled with over their durations of existence. LAFC obviously being a little bit less matured than the Galaxy, Galaxy being around for as long as they have. But I mean, soccer being just such a hotbed in those areas, and really like you would expect, I think that a lot of youth academy players would be like consistently flying through those academies and going into the teams. And I think it's really interesting that I think both teams have kind of almost gone more the route of trying to do the model of high profile purchases and kind of rely on that as opposed to doing it the other way. And I'm curious now with the new sporting director there for the Galaxy that came in over this last like couple of years, if him and Vanny are going to try to look to change that. Because I do think that that's something that would make a ton of sense. And I feel like now that San Diego's in too, and clearly has put emphasis on that, I'm wondering if that's kind of scaring both teams into maybe starting to care about that a little bit more too.
At the very least too, with Southern California being such a high population state and there's a lot of great athletes that came out of here, just at the very least being one of those academies that sells 16, 17-year-old 18 players to other European academies.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's at the very least what I could see, not even if they don't
funding
come
your
through
club in some capacity, right?
Yeah, with some sell-on clause and stuff like that in the future. Yeah. The Red Bulls just sold a 16-year-old abroad.
Yeah, to AC Milan. We were talking about that a little. That was pretty cool. I had never heard of that guy. And see, I love stuff like that. Like they're just like they have so much promise in the academy. And obviously, it helps too is the MLS does a good job of this. And I don't know if it's necessarily the MLS or the teams individually, but those teams traveling or inviting European youth teams and having those tournaments and obviously scouting kind of goes back and forth. And I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, if there's one thing that I will say that I definitely am very in the dark on, it is like, I feel like there is places to.
That'd be cool.
I feel like there is places to look at it, but I feel like how the youth networks are set up in like a lot of the MLS Next Pro stuff. That's something that I personally have not taken a lot of time to.
Yeah, the issue is that it changes often. Like the MLS Pro stuff with the second teams, the MLS has done, in a sense, sometimes a disservice to a lot of the teams where it's like they've been changing the models of their pro systems and stuff like that.
Some teams have like a USL League One team as their MLS Next team. Some have their own MLS Next team, and then it's just like you said, it's changed a lot.
Not standardized.
It's confusing. It's very confusing.
By the league.
Exactly.
Yeah, it'd be better if the league said this is what you guys have to do, but they do that without like giving the proper guidelines of everybody doing the same thing.
And then not every team has those teams as well, it feels like.
Yeah, no, there definitely isn't. I don't even think, if I remember correctly, I don't even think DC United has one right now. I'm pretty positive, which is a huge deal because you're constantly hearing about teams or players in their youth academy that are having to leave to go find opportunities to play because I know one example was like Christian Fletcher, who's playing with Nottingham Forest right now.
Yeah.
With their youth, like their I think it's like their under 20 team or something like that. But he's been just lighting it up over there, and he was a big time example where that if you had first team spots for him, or even just like another step for him to develop, you might have been able to hang on to him. And because I think that's the issue too, is a lot of these guys are being sold for pennies because you can't justify having a team unless it's a Kevin Sullivan talent. Like you can't justify a team breaking the bank for some of these players. They're just gonna throw you a little bit of money for their rights out of the gates, and then just like that's just not how the youth transfer systems work. So it's not having that setup is a huge deal right now. And I know I can speak on my own personal team with Minnesota United being like, we're probably one of the worst examples in the league on how to develop youth talent because it's just not something that we've ever prioritized. We for a few years didn't even have a youth setup. We decided to not do it under the previous tenure. And now we're trying to kind of go up with our backs up against the wall on trying to catch up to a lot of where well-established ones already in place. So it's interesting with how every single team has their own story with youth academies and like in MLS right now, because there's not exactly like a blueprint or a template on what the expectation is. And you're kind of stumbling around in the dark with a flashlight trying to figure it out on your own, which I don't know that doesn't say much about like helping develop soccer in the States from a national team perspective, but it's kind of the status of where we're at with it right now.
And also just accessibility and stuff like that. Like a lot of Red Bulls 2 stuff I can find pretty easily on YouTube and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The fact that on Twitter I don't know that is,
it's way shirts away here.
I thought St. Louis they do have space now. Oh, I thought I was getting to Klaus. Klaus's hair is tripping me out. It looks like he rubbed a static balloon on it or something. He's a big guy too. He's really tall.
Hardcore balding.
Yeah.
He's hanging on to it,
youth equals success, even if it takes time. Yeah, and I definitely agree. I think that's the issue is a lot of teams in MLS just aren't trying, and I think that's where a lot of it stems from. I think like perfect example we've kind of talked about. Like I really do like identifying team identity for like how your roster build comes to be, and I think the big thing that my brother was over watching the Minnesota United game last night, and we ended up actually kind of talking and touching on again. We have a player that's starting on our back line now that was a second round pick a year or two ago. That is, I'm not kidding you, maybe our best defender. And I don't understand where he came from or like how it ended up being. It's just another draft pick. And we have hit so many home runs on our draft picks. And a lot of teams don't necessarily emphasize the super draft, but there is a way to like make your team successful if you go out of your way to scout college correctly. And that's something that Minnesota, that's been like our style of how we've done our youth academy is we've just like kind of done it through there. We have Hassani Dotson was a draft pick. Dane St. Clair was a draft pick. Taniola
you guys might be one of the best teams in terms of draft picks. I think I would say
top 3, top 5 for sure. And
who else would you be better than that? Do you think?
I honestly, for a draft too, that's the thing. I don't know enough like players on it because it is so overlooked in the coverage.
I feel like players will get drafted.
Don't even give it any credit.
Yeah, and the players will get drafted first, second, third overall, and then you never hear about them again. And what other sport does that happen like with drafts? But I think that's just the unique situation that MLS is in, where it kind of like there's a gray area of how they do their like with the academy and the draft system. It's a little confusing for what they want to put their time into and what's important. But like you said, there's a lot of good players in college, especially for the MLS. You could get some good like squad players at the very least.
Well, and I mean, every now and again too, you hit a gem like a Duncan McGuire, a Dill40k, like where you have these players that are out of nowhere, just like. I mean, late bloomers are a real thing. Like it's you're developing and hitting your prime at 24. Patrick Ajiman, who we watched in the January camp, like that guy was a late bloomer that didn't play organized ball until I think he was like 16 or 17, and now it's like that guy's the starting striker for Charlotte and getting like huge English championship rumors where he's probably going to go during the summer if he kind of keeps up he's had a slow start to the year, admittedly. But those are the types of situations though where it's like those players exist out there if you do your due diligence and scout them and take chances on people. Hassani Dotson for us was kind of that guy where we took a chance on a guy that was kind of in a unique situation. He had like a unique story, like where he was a second round pick where he was kind of coming out a little bit early and a lot of people were advising him against it, but we just took a chance on him. The guy's been rotational or starting for us now since, pretty much that first year he was here. So yeah, there's always gold if you're choosing to mine it there. It just takes time.
Yeah. It's really weird how there's so many MLS organizations that just don't give it the time of day to the point where like the trades that they do is like they don't even care about it at all, really.
No. Maybe because there's just not like a good like B team setup for the MLS where those draft players kind of could sit because they're not really youth players at that point, and just with the way the contracts work. I feel like oftentimes you'll see players who get drafted and then you Google their name like a year or two later and they're just playing in the USL.
Yeah, that happens so often.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's a great point because a lot of teams don't necessarily give two shits about it, like if we're being real. So that's because for various reasons, it's not not gonna have a roster spot. They're focusing on their own youth academy, and
I would say the Red Bulls is a team that doesn't really value the draft too high, just because we usually focus on our academy and bringing in people from Austria and
Well, I feel like what is the point of the academy to develop players into a level that they can play in the first team or players that you can sell? You could do your due diligence in the draft and literally draft a player that's already been developed to a certain point that you're trying to develop them in the academy.
You could find the player who fits your style the most.
Yeah, exactly.
Be the best player. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And you have a team full of like you have people whose entire jobs are analyzing the styles and stuff like that. So
yeah, and you have to imagine a lot of these like assistant coaches, backroom guys, scouts, they're going to be, especially in the MLS, they're going to be familiar with that system because if they played soccer at any, high level, it most likely could be in college at, D1 through D3. So like that's a system that they're familiar with unless they're, not from the US.
Yeah. But I have a question for you guys. Would you guys rather be at draft day and like compete in like the room and like watch that all go down, or be in like a fly on the wall for a transfer deadline day for soccer? Draft day in terms of football.
Hold on.
What do you guys think would have more fun with?
Oh, shit. Thank God.
That was so bad.
Transfer
What in the hell?
I think NFL draft day for
I,
me.
I think I think the NFL draft is something that like I think the European mind can't comprehend in a way.
Are we
Where it's
talking
like,
the other thing too? Like
mhm,
qualifying
yeah.
question. Are we talking like I'm getting sneak peek like insider info on draft, or am I like just sitting in like just being at like the draft
No,
like
yeah, you're
facilities?
part of the team. You're doing the
Oh, so
recruitment,
okay, I
yeah,
got you.
all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and if
yeah.
I mean NFL draft, no doubt.
It's crazy. Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. I would probably still do transfer just because I know more about soccer. But the draft is like, and even seeing like the production that goes into it and
Yeah,
everything, it's pretty insane.
Dude, they put so much like that's the difference with like the American sports outside of, the MLS. Like the draft is the place for,
Exactly.
youth. There's no other way to get youth
that is the
players.
youth
So
academies. Yeah,
exactly.
like
So
that is the youth
there's
academy.
so
You
much
have a
stock
full
into
farm
it.
system developed through like the
Yeah.
college system for American football.
And it'd be cool if
It
the
is very
MLS
unique.
could make those college systems be competitive enough. Like I mean, it's not on the MLS, but if those college systems got competitive enough, where those top 10
Oh,
players
that was
are
nice.
all MLS
Come on, Peck.
starters.
Yeah,
Oh, dude, this guy.
dude.
He's so heavy footed. That's twice that's happened. Peck
Yeah.
off that first shot Peck had. I don't know if it was Miller both times, but he played a nice one too, and just the heaviest of touch to finish it off. Quan makes a good point though for draft. Drafts do work in a closed system, but with international sports, it doesn't really work. And I mean, the only sport that that the U.S. kind of it's just soccer. There's not really another international sport like that. Holy
Yeah.
shit! Oh my God,
Oh,
twice.
Come
was that
on.
Royce? Oh,
The only
it
comparison
was.
is baseball,
Oh,
to be honest, because the way they bring in like Japanese players and
Yeah.
Dominican
Love
players who
yeah.
Korean
don't get
players too.
drafted. That is the one-to-one comparison for
Well,
for U.S. sports.
let me ask those that are in Europe right now for like some of the top end leagues. Being, I understand that you have a pyramid system, but would you think it would be unique and interesting to do some form of like if you take away the youth academy, say they didn't exist, and I know that's like a big big hypothetical, but if you had just kind of like a player pool that you were working through and had like this like kind of like youth league that wasn't necessarily attached to your teams, you had no
Yeah.
affiliation with them, and then it was based on like having some kind of closed league system where the worst team is drafting some of the best players and has the best option to draft like the top end talent, and they're doing their own scouting and evaluating. Don't you guys think that there would be some like there would be hype over there for that if that was the setup? Obviously, I understand that it's an insane hypothetical that is never going to exist with all the youth academy stuff you guys have going on, and there's pride with all of that stuff. But
Hmm.
it's the exact same way. That's how the NFL feels and works. It really is that way, where it's there's hope for the teams that are towards the bottom based on the reinforcements that they have coming from some of those college teams that honestly have a lot of that like town feel where it's when you're going to like a small town in like I don't perfect example like small town in Wisconsin for my job. I'm going into like a diner or something. They'll literally have like it'll be the high school football teams on the wall like with their
Yeah.
schedules, and it will be like the collegiate football team if there's one close. Like for Wisconsin, it'd be like the Wisconsin Badgers, so like the public state university, and those are people that they know. There's kids that they know from their town that play on those teams. Like it's significant and kind of almost resembles similar to what maybe the youth academy might feel or
Mm.
the town teams that you support
That's
your
a great
local
point.
clubs. So there is kind of that feel, but being that it's a closed system, it's obviously different, but there is similarities in it too. So it is unique. And I think that's something too that those that might not know a lot about American football over in Europe that might like the parallels are there for the ones, but it's all based on the amount of equity and tradition and how long these things have existed, because it takes time to build all this stuff up. It takes time to create
Build
the
a youth
infrastructure,
academy. Yeah.
build a youth academy in the sake of, soccer teams, and create for an American football team, or the minor league
That's
baseball
fair.
system that Dill alluded to. It's like, it takes
Yeah.
time to set all that stuff up because there's a lot of logistics
Oh,
that
you
are needed
God.
for ironing out. That literally crossed three
Wow.
people.
Oh my God, no one got their foot on it. And Quad and HD, I understand that it wouldn't work, and I think the one thing just to note in regards to the caveat for it is like this would only exist in a world where academies didn't exist and these players it's basically a youth league unattached
Yeah.
from teams. That would be
Correct.
the main difference. They wouldn't be playing with
Oh
like
my God,
Sunday
dude.
league people. It'd just be there is a youth league, but I don't think it works because of that pyramid system. That
Exactly.
messes
Yeah,
it
it
up.
would never. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree that it would never work. But the hypothetical definitely is if you guys had like a closed league system of some kind, whether it was like a, even if it was like a 2-tiered system or something like
Mhm.
that, where there was 40 teams, 45 teams, 44 teams that existed. Like, I do think. I mean, the amount of fervor that would exist for that would honestly resemble it if it's something that you guys had as a tradition that was like as long as what we do over here. Because in my opinion, it would start to resemble very similar to like what collegiate sports are here, where it is
Well, it'd
like
be like there wouldn't be as
way.
much. It would be like the local passion would be for the youth league because like it would have to be a closed system where there's only like 20 to 30 teams that
Correct.
exist,
Yeah.
and it's like it's
Yeah.
less. You're gonna find less times where a player is going to play pro at his local level because he's gonna be drafted to maybe
Anywhere.
the south of England as opposed
Yeah.
while he lives in the north of England. Like there can't be, and it's just because everything's so closed in the U.S. There's a finite amount of teams, so and you have this huge pool of players to pick from for like NFL drafts and baseball drafts and
Yep.
things like that, basketball drafts.
Baseball specifically. I mean, they're even pulling out of high school.
Yeah, I know that one's interesting. And then but that's like that's kind of the comparison where you get with like European sports because they have these very specific rules about you don't draft international talents, you sign them. But it's like it's a very weird process.
Yeah.
And there's no cap space, just like or cap room or cap kind of like not kind of like just like the Premier League. It's basically you can spend what you
Sure.
make or however much you want to.
Also, youth academies are objectively the way to go to create a good team, even if you can't bring in players easily. Yeah, you're talking like IRL now. I mean, I
Yeah.
agree. If you have the system set up and like you're able to show that you can do it consistently, I think there's no better way to sustain a team.
I think
like,
that,
going
especially in the
forward.
MLS, though, I think that with the expansion teams, unless you're Miami, it's really hard to build up an academy besides like,
You got to have a plan for sure.
yeah, you have to have a plan, but you're also like, you're building out your brand in addition to getting people in and like building soccer, like bringing soccer to Minnesota and stuff like that. Like there's been
Yeah.
attempts and stuff like that before with, we've talked about like some of the other teams.
Mhm.
But it's still like you are the representative of all soccer in Minnesota at that point. And
Yep.
it's kind of
Yep.
hard to do that, especially for expansion teams, or even let's say an expansion team like San Diego, where they're competing against a huge team like Galaxy and another expansion team in an LAFC for their
Yep.
talent.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's super hard because it's just like with local youth academies and stuff like that, you get to the grassroots level and like you find your way in from where you deserve to play.
Mm-hmm.
But with us, like it's just like you only have your local MLS team.
Yeah.
If you want to do like youth and professional soccer, unless you're doing USL too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I think the
when
other
it
thing
comes
too,
to that, it's just tough for the expansion teams.
no, I agree with you. I think the other thing too, like you said, so like it's all about like how many roots are in the ground already about the pro system. Like, is it
Yeah.
was there a pro team there since the 70s? Was there one since because for example, like Minnesota is a good example because we've had varying levels of different pro teams here. We've had the Minnesota Kicks like early days, which was OG NASL back when like Pele was in the league with the Cosmos and stuff like that. So we've been around for a long time, but then that's transitioned into doing NASL has like kind of came and went on its popularity where it was the top league, wasn't the top league. So we kind of went up and down from being like pro to like pro adjacent to semi-pro to like, so we've done the rounds with that. But what that means then too is building an academy with that varying level of change of like what that means for that existence. That's harder to be able to fund an academy level with it being directly affiliated and connected with whatever that team is, whether it's a top end pro league team. So a lot of times what's happening here and in other spots is you'll have these grassroots systems that are already existing that are kind of more like pay to play, or like for me, for example, like growing up in Minnesota, we had like a traveling setup where I could choose to pay to play in a league and set it up and like go travel around and play as like a select club team. And then if you were better and better, you could, kind of work your way up into like varying levels of skill through those club teams. But then there's also like, I know for a while there was like Olympic developmental programs, ODP systems where you could set up that's where a lot of players that were like top end were starting to get like notoriety and maybe getting looks at for, playing high-end club levels or playing for the US team and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So there was things that existed, but it all looks different no matter where you go, and there's not
Yeah.
there's not a congruency amongst state to state, and that's the thing
Exactly,
that's
yeah.
really confusing too. And like really think about like for the geography of the United States,
fuck?
think about if you're looking. Oh my
That was
God.
crazy. That went so
that
high
bumped
in
up.
there.
Bro literally kicked it off his back.
That's funny. It's opened up a bit though for both sides. I feel like both
It
have
has.
had some
It's
good chances.
been
Especially
much more
Galaxy.
entertaining.
I
You
think
can.
Galaxy
I've
deserve a
noticed.
goal.
I've noticed both teams though. You can tell like there's some frustration from both. I feel like both teams' attackers are kind of asking them to press and get the tempo up, and then just nothing's happening as a result of it. I feel like they're kind of comfortable sitting, passing it in the back for a few times before. Dang, that was crazy how far he punched that with one hand.
He's hit.
That was
Berkey Hulk
crazy.
smash.
But yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, it's super because like the other
Oh,
thing is you can have
yellow.
so many you can have the best facilities in the world, but if you're an expansion team, like
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're relying on factors that you didn't, you know. And I also wonder how much of a consideration youth soccer and how the youth soccer like um environment looks like. Like I imagine San Diego's is pretty good already. So I think that might be a consideration for expansion teams in the future too.
Edwin Cerrillo is our new 6, so they really trust in him to be our next Delgado. Then this is the guy that I feel like is more of a ball winner as opposed to being able to progress the ball really well. Delgado is super versatile.
And I think that that's what you need with this Galaxy midfield is someone to get the ball over. I mean, Puig does that perfectly. So it's like once they're together, if you have a ball winner and a ball progressor, that's gonna be perfect.
There we go.
Oh, that's
right
a
wing,
bad
right
giveaway.
wing. Oh, that's nice though.
Oh,
what a save!
Oh my!
Oh,
That was really well worked. That was cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Royce had his mind made
Oh,
up
again!
there, but
One more.
Oh,
What are you doing?
oh. I feel like Royce had his mind made up that he was shooting that, and I feel like he had the better channel to shoot there than
Yeah.
Christian did. Like
Let's see.
Christian was kind of jammed up on the pass a little bit.
That was a nice little cut. Yeah, he was. It was behind him, the pass, yeah.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah, I mean, he could really only go to that side, you know what I mean?
God, Klaus is so big. He's bodying our left back.
There's really... It's unique to have a target forward like him in the league, too, because, I mean, like, it's pretty much like him and Benteke are the two that, like, come to mind as being, like,
Giroud
kind of
too.
the... Yeah, Giroud
hasn't been able to do anything just like
bro.
this guy.
He's I mean, Giroud, that style. I think I officially called it last week after watching it a couple times. Like that is just like the biggest square peg round hole signing that I have seen in MLS in some time, based on like the pedigree of it and like obviously the stature of the player.
Yeah,
like I feel bad for him because I feel like he's gonna like be. Giroud's not washed. Like he could still do it because you can tell like the effort's there and everything like that. That dude just does not fit into what LAFC is trying to do. And I have no idea why they signed him. It's actually kind of ridiculous.
They want to play with pace and just blitz down the wings.
Yeah.
I do love Danny Bawanga. He's so fun to watch. That was
well, and that's a great point too with bringing him into the fold too with Bawanga, where it's Bawanga just like is part of the clash because it's just a guy that is so high octane, and then also on top of it too, that guy wants to like dribble like more inverted
towards the goal, exactly right where
Giroud like
stands. Yeah,
so you want Giroud to go do these corner flag runs? Like what are we doing? Like doesn't make any sense. The things that I've seen that have been successful is they've kind of like done some wall passes off of each other where like Giroud will just be stationary and almost just like kind of like let Bawanga run off of him and like kind of do like these little give and go passes. But that's like the only thing that I've seen that even remotely they've been able to combine on. Everything else has just been a slog.
And even just the fact that they haven't utilized Giroud's height and set pieces and stuff like that. Like the fact that he hasn't scored at one corner kick goal.
Pinging and cross. It's like ping the dude across for crying out loud.
Yeah. And especially it's been like, I don't know, like 20 regular season games in the MLS. He scored against like, I think in the League's Cup or something against a Mexican opposition. But like the fact that it's like in the and maybe in the playoffs he did something, but in the regular MLS season, he hasn't scored at all. And obviously including last year. So it's just like, they need to do something about it. And I think that, it was savvy with Boanga, but
I forgot I don't have
the first spot.
I forgot I don't have my thing set up. My Y spot.
I like that he at least had a kind of a soccer themed name, a little right wing goose. All right.
I don't think that's the right wing we're thinking of.
Probably not. You fooled me.
He's gonna sell MAGA crypto. Oh man, I want to. Oh, we've been close. We've been close. It's bidding the goal. The attempts have been getting closer. That last Berkey save with his feet was sick.
There's been a couple posts too.
I know. That Royce shot was nice.
You guys have definitely been. You guys have been the stronger side here. I don't. St. Louis was like a really heavy pick that I saw a lot of people predictions wise picking like top end of the league this year, and
really?
I did always think like mainly because they've brought back a lot of the same players.
Mm-hmm.
They've added another player that like kind of fits their style of play.
What they finished last year in the support field?
They struggled last year for majority of the season, but they were hot like towards the tail end where they actually were fighting for playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. I'll take a peek here quick.
Let me see that. How far? Do you guys know St. Louis is from?
It says on the plane, 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah, 37 points last year, but they were really struggling for a good portion of the year. I think maybe struggled down the actual final couple games, but they only missed the playoff line. Oh no, they actually missed it by a fair amount. So I think they probably had a tough final month because I remember them having a good stretch where they were actually in consideration for the 9. But yeah, finished on 37 points. 47 was the playoff line last year. So
okay, 26-hour drive, Mariner, by the way.
Damn.
So if you want to be sitting on the bus for 26 hours, you can catch up on some shows.
Yeah. Probably a layover mixed in there.
Yeah, napping Greyhound, like with the bed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend.
The MLS should fund just like a highway between, or like a super rail between all the MLS teams.
Just for MLS teams.
Yeah.
It just gathers dust when the season's off.
And the supporters.
No USL, you can't use it.
That's what would happen. 100%.
You got USL teams masquerading as MLS next teams just to use it.
Yeah, Mariners. That's why it sucks over here. Like the away supporter culture is just like non-existent unless like
Bro, no one's
like
gonna do that.
if Biz moved to Minnesota, or if Biz moved to New York, then he'd like go watch Minnesota. But like it's very very rare unless like you have like huge supporters. And like the big games.
Yeah, it's people who live here and are fans, not people traveling. That's like so rare. Like no one's gonna. Like I feel like for a lot of Biz, you've talked about it a lot. Like the closest away day is like even like an hour to like 2 hours, right?
Chicago probably, but they play on in a different conference than us. That's the other issue is like these Midwest teams also are kind of susceptible to like how they're drawing the lines between the two conferences. So like our biggest rival should probably be Chicago because it's the closest drive. I think Chicago's like a 6 hour for
they
me.
just headbutted so hard.
Oh
But
my.
we probably only play
not too
Chicago
bad.
like once every couple years, like once every like 3 or 4 years, because you don't play the other side of the conference very often.
Mhm.
You only play them, I think, like six total teams each year, and it alternates. So for us though, on the Western Conference, the closest away day would be Sporting Kansas City, who we play regularly. That's considered our rival, and that's like an 8-hour drive.
Yeah, that's
for
ridiculous.
me to go and see the closest team to me. And that's not every team. Like teams that are wedged in on the coast have it a little bit better. Like obviously Dill out with the LA teams picks with New York. It's like you have the derbies there with teams in the same city. That's why they try to do that too, so you have a little bit of that. Columbus and Cincinnati have like the hour drive down their interstate to go watch each other, both in Ohio. So it's like there's things that exist there. And like I would say like southeastern portion of the country too, like Charlotte, Atlanta, like those are definitely more accessible. But yeah, us up here by ourselves, it's why I'm begging for a team like Detroit to make it in, because it's like just so we have anyone like that I could go and see an away game and like be in the same conference as and like actually genuinely hate would be great, because it's just we don't have that. Like I don't have any visceral reactions towards Kansas City where I dislike them.
Let
it's like
Biz
I
hate.
don't.
That's
Yeah, I don't have any reason to, because I never interact with those people ever. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's there's no point. Like for us, like the border battle that we have with Wisconsin for our state stuff with the Packers Vikings or like those types of things, Badgers versus the Gophers and all of our collegiate sports. Like there's like an actual hatred because those are people that like I'm pretty close to the border of Wisconsin being here in the Twin Cities. We're only like, I'm a 30-minute drive away from the border. So it's like I work with those people. Like I went to school with some of those people. It's like, you see them every day. And it's like, when they're talking shit about their teams, it's like that manifests itself into being a better rivalry than an 8-hour drive where I've been to Kansas City like once in my life. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't have any personal feelings of hatred towards those people.
Mariners, what's the furthest you went for a away day then? That's pretty cool that you've been to almost all the games in a season. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is cool. I like that.
Biggest MLS derby, though, I'd probably say is I would give it to Seattle Portland personally. Is mine. I think that's one of
There's a lot of equity built up in that one. Yeah, so Kiscali, that's
there's
a good
lot
one.
Of good ones, and it depends who you ask because there's people who are going to be more.
They love to hype up El Tráfico, though. They love to hype that one up. I don't think it has enough longevity, but like social media wise and like as a branding thing, it's one of the biggest games every year. But it makes sense because it's in LA.
No, that's a good one. I like we've talked about Hell is Real on here before, but that's like that's Cincinnati and Columbus. That one's a little bit newer though. Sure. So I mean, like
that one's one of the good ones though. I
really it is. One. That one's close enough where I think that there is enough hatred there between the two Ohio's.
Yeah, we promote. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say.
No, but I think that's a great way. Like getting
not to have that
someone to hate is a great way of making someone a fan of a team. You know, give it
them that team to hate.
Odds versus them. Yeah.
I hate this team more than I like my team.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why we need a Monster Energy soccer team in New York.
Yep.
Oh, jeez. Come on. No. Oh, my God.
Oh,
what?
That is just shambolic. That is.
Wow. This is not good for the MLS. That's going to be posted everywhere. We're just going to be.
It was his own. The issue was it was his own player too that got in the way on him trying to grab it.
That makes me so sad.
Oh no.
And it looks like
I'm still in the camp that LA wins this 2-1 because they've definitely been the better side.
What the hell was that? Now Klaus's hair is fine because he watered it. Yoshida headed it and then oh my god. Oh, dude, that's so ridiculous. That's like that's a Looney Tunes goal.
Yeah. Klaus got on his way too. That was smart of him.
Garza's keeping that out originally was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was falling.
Yeah, he was. That was super nice. The reactions behind the net were great by the supporters there. The one guy wincing. That's like all of us.
Like, you see that? Oh, the guy in the red.
Yeah. The full-on wins.
Okay, I guess I can. Oh, wrong team.
Gives it to the Galaxy.
Oh, it's because I messed it up.
Once MLS builds up more seasons, I'm sure more rivalries will be formed. Yeah, that is the other thing too. Kind of like with what we were just talking about with NFL, MLB, all these leagues that have been around for us, you know, since that have already done about what are we talking? 60 years at least for NFL, and MLB's over a century. So it's like think about like how intricate some of the systems are in Major League Baseball with like all of the rules, all of the different like farm systems and the affiliations with those and how the leagues work and the pastime that is always said about. It's like it's just an equity thing. Like it really is. Like the amount of time, like you had another decade or two of the MLS and what the league could look like. I really am.
It's exciting.
Like in a standpoint of
it's exciting.
50 years of MLS
days.
will be something.
Yeah.
We are for sure.
The other big thing is that you have like historic rivalries and then you have like competitive rivalries as time goes on. Like DC United were probably one of our biggest rivalries going on, but DC United haven't been super competitive.
Yeah, that makes it harder.
That is always interesting. That's like looking in the F Football Manager tab at rivalries.
Exactly.
Like,
that's
how
exactly.
How am I supposed to be a rival with a 4th division team?
Yeah.
But that was just back in the day. So MLS doesn't even have a chance to. Haven't had a chance to be that, so but it'll be cool when it does.
But with more time and stuff like that, it's gonna be exciting.
Vanny negative aura for missing the ball.
It's a former player too. He should be ashamed.
I'm putting that on the ick list.
Dude, Royce has looked good today.
Yeah.
I will say
Yeah.
this.
Really good.
He's
Playing
stuck out
further
to me.
up,
and-
too. Way
Yeah,
further
he's
up.
definitely stuck up to me more than he has in the first couple. I mean, if they're gonna do anything like in this standpoint with no Paintsill, like he definitely is the one that needs to definitely needs to step up.
I agree.
The
Oh,
fact
don't
that
show
was
me
also
yet.
St. Louis's first goal of the year was that. Like,
Oh, I forgot that they hadn't
Who's
scored.
that? Is
Nothing
the
at all.
goalie's got a call for that, or Yoshida didn't hear it, but he had that in his hands. Also, I miss our old keeper, just as our backup now. This guy's on loan, I think. This is Croatian dude or Serbian dude.
I never like a goalkeeper on loan.
yeah,
bad juju.
it's.
It's like how devoted to the team.
You
are
do
they,
think this guy's on loan? I thought I heard that they wanted to like
This guy.
the theory was that they wanted to sell this dude. I thought or something, and they were.
I feel like last year. Okay, if he was the same guy that I'm thinking of that was here last year, I think he was here, like, on loan
He's
with an option to
Serbian.
buy,
Maybe they did that.
and then maybe they
Novak
did buy him.
Mikovic.
But I liked our old keeper. I liked our keeper. He was crazy.
Oh yeah, it looks like he's on loan.
Ventura Coney. Where does he put his? What? Was that a Daisy girl? What was that?
You heard that? She's snoring super loud.
Oh, that was crazy.
That was just me ripping ass. Daisy.
Yeah, like, oh, that probably should have been two.
I think my mic's like
All right.
super hot right now because I haven't put any of the updated settings on for this new one.
Dill vibes check after the first half. How are we feeling? Is there hope?
My vibes? A terrible vibe. I'm going to be such a bummer at the halftime show.
All right.
I think Galaxy have still looked better. I think it was just
I
like
do. I agree with that. As well.
like there was one chance that hit the post that was pretty bad, or not bad, but just like that should have been a goal. And there was like at least two other chances that I think that Galaxy could have.
The Royce one that hit the post was damn.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
And dude, those
And
were
the
like
Ramirez
weighted through
shot,
balls that
too.
they're hitting through.
Yeah.
Like those line breaking passes that they're hitting.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially like on like with like between the right back and the center back that they're hitting. Like I don't know, that hit like crack. That was beautiful. I hope that there's some more of those.
I like that.
Like crack in the 90s.
Well, you guys set up. I'm gonna run to the restroom really quick.
Okay.
While you guys set up, I'll be right back.
No
Yeah,
worries.
no worries.
Pull up Fought Mob. I want to see what the ratings are on these teams. Let's do this.
So who was the goalkeeper that you guys had before? know if I remember.
McCarthy,
Oh, okay, yeah.
my boy.
Yeah, Biz and I were talking earlier today about like the underratedness of the Red Bulls goalkeeper Cornell. He's like Paraguay's second choice, third choice, and he hasn't looked that great when he started, and a lot of like Paraguayan fans like shit on him a lot. But I still think that he's pretty good, and I think that the MLS has carved out a good niche of like getting those mostly for for example like the Peruvian goalkeeper. The Canadian goalkeeper now, stuff like that, where they're getting like the national team keepers of a lot of places is really nice.
No, I agree. I feel like, yeah, the Mikovic thing, I just don't understand why we replaced him, especially in a season where we have so much change anyways. I feel like that kind of can give us some consistency, but I don't know, it's weird to me.
Yeah, like I was saying it earlier, where it's like the goalkeeper is one of the things that's like, if you change the goalkeeper, it can change your back line completely.
And we have
And
a
you need
lot of
someone who's,
different
like, really
languages,
experienced
communicating back there too. So it's like, that's one
Yeah,
thing that
dude.
kind of worries me as well.
Yeah, you have Garces, then you have this guy who's probably like learning English, or is and then you also have Yoshida, so it's tough.
I have hope for the second half, but we'll see. We just need to finish those chances. It's sometimes there's those games where like we might not get something like that again until the end, and just giving up a goal like that on a mistake is such a bummer, because I feel like up until that point, outside the first 10 minutes, I feel like we had really good control of that game.
Seesaw of chances was definitely leaning in your guys' favor. I agree.
Yeah.
Should we in the meantime here, just kind of while we're waiting on some stuff halftime, you want me to just kind of do a score recap and just kind of do like just couple
For
just
sure.
Yeah.
base reactions on thoughts. Obviously, we won't go too deep because we got a podcast that we
let's
save
answer
for,
one
so.
question first though from Mariners and Biz.
Sure.
I think you can speak to it because you talked to it a little bit in our chat. Has Almiron
Yeah.
been good since coming back to Atlanta?
Yeah, so Atlanta has looked good this year offensively, and I think like that will take a little bit of time to gel, if I'm being perfectly honest. I do think that Almiron definitely fits what they're trying to do perfectly. I don't know if he necessarily has. I think he has like a couple assists to Latte Loth is my guess,
Already?
but nothing. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I thought he did. I'd have to look, but yeah, I mean, definitely like the goal scoring contribution. I don't know if that's necessarily going to look the same either, just with how they have him set up now too.
I think they're going to drop him a lot deeper because Miranchuk is kind of more the 10, more so the
Yeah,
creative.
he's more. I think on top of it too, with the system, he's a little bit more involved in the trying to like cause problems in the press and like creating like counterattacking opportunities with like just being really disruptive with his work rate and stuff too. So I do think that is probably the difference on how he was versus how he was being used the first time he was here, where he was expected to be the guy. He was like the 10, and it was like him and Joseph like were tasked with doing everything, like the heavy lifting for scoring, like playmaking, and now he can really just kind of like do the things that he is elite at. So I'll be curious to see how that looks in like a goal contribution standpoint, because I like it hasn't been there to start the first couple games, but like I said, I think it's gonna just take some time to gel. I mean, you can see, like, I've watched a couple of the Atlanta games, you can see his quality still. I mean, it hasn't vanished. So he's definitely still a great player.
Yeah, and I really like Miranchuk too, with them being paired together as two center midfielders there together. Because Miranchuk's only like 28, 29, so he still has a lot of gas left in the tank. But unfortunately, with the pitch at Atlanta, it's a little bit tougher. But I think that he still has 2-3 years to give to the MLS if he decides to stay over here.
For sure.
I think that he's probably one of the best 10s of the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're talking Marinchuk.
Yeah,
no, I definitely agree. That guy he does some things off the ball, and just like kind of like the proactive thought of like knowing the next couple plays.
And he didn't have that last year, where he didn't have the players to be able to read those decisions.
He's reading the game at it's a high level, definitely a high level. So
he was like hitting those passes, but there was no one to finish them off. So
yep,
it's gonna be good with the signings that Atlanta have done.
No, agreed. Well, all right, let's get just kind of like base reactions. I know you said you hadn't watched a lot of the games, so that's actually kind of like perfect with the minimal of that. Just kind of like base reactions on just seeing some of these scores. So Columbus Houston was a 0-0 draw at Columbus. I watched that game. It was maybe one of the most like
I heard that,
eye gouging out games of all time. It literally was just so terrible. So points for both there. Houston keeps a clean sheet against a really good Columbus team. So I guess that's kind of what I would take from that. Sounders destroy LAFC 5-2.
There was
a lot of rotation in that game.
It makes sense.
So I will say that. Both of these teams are in CONCACAF Champions League, so there is a lot of rotation there. So take that for what it's worth. But yeah, Seattle, let me list goal scorers here really quickly for you. So Rienzi, who is a youth academy product for Seattle, it's on the scoreboard. Paul Rothrock, who is a long-term, has like kind of started to play for Seattle more and more. I would almost kind of like equate his effects as almost kind of being like a Scheffelberg, kind of similar to that. But he played very early on with Toronto and made a few appearances, but he's been kind of bouncing around between second teams of Toronto, and then played for Tacoma Defiance, which is Seattle's farm team, for a while, and now has made 48 appearances for Seattle. He had a goal and an assist yesterday. He was freaking awesome. So I thought he looked really good. Jordan Morris ended up being the all-time goal scorer leader for Seattle now.
Passing Rui Diaz.
Yep. So got on the board there. Christian Roldan with an 84th minute winner, and then Albert Rusnak with the 94th. The one thing that was also really important to note from this game was Pedro de la Vega, a non-contact injury in this one in the 30th minute. So I don't know what that is yet, but that's not good. And I mean, that's been kind of his MO since they signed him, and why he was available, because the guy just cannot seem to stay healthy. And then for LAFC, Nathan Ordas from their youth academy got one. And then David Martinez, who is the guy that I have been hyping up as just like, go and watch that guy play soccer. It was like the lone bright spot out of that game for LAFC was just a like insanely beautiful goal. He like dribbled from half field and scored. So that was really cool to see as well. But yeah, so 5-2 Seattle over LAFC.
Seattle going into their CONCACAF second leg 0-0, right? So
yep.
that's going to be a good one. I'm excited.
Cruz Azul.
Yeah.
Oh,
Azul.
wow.
Yep.
So where's the game taking place? Where's the second leg?
They already played in Seattle, so they didn't do their job. So
shit.
That's something that we'll probably talk a lot about on the podcast. I was personally not real pleased with what I think a lot of MLS teams ended up doing over their first opportunity to
strike,
try to get a result and strike. Yeah, early on in these CONCACAF Champions League qualifiers against not qualifiers, Champions League round of 16 matchups. I felt like there was a lot of pissing down the legs.
That's going to be a crazy game to watch because that the Cruz Azul goalkeeper is that Colombian goalkeeper who goes out super crazy. So it's going to be interesting to see if he plays a little bit more conservative because of the away goal rule.
Also,
I think that adds a different dynamic.
No, I agree with you. Also, you're going to probably see Sergio Ramos in the Monterrey back end.
Oh, true.
That'll be cool.
He's already scored twice in 2 games. So
Monterrey are looking really good. Monterrey have always been a pretty good team, but
I think highest spending club in North America as of right now. Other results, we mentioned Atlanta United Red Bulls to Pix's team. That was a 0-0 result on the road. Pix, without watching that one, what do you take away from a 0-0 game?
I think I didn't get to watch the game, but I think just drawing on the road to a team that has we already talked a little bit briefly about Atlanta, and I think that's one of the teams that I'm really excited to watch. This season in the Eastern Conference because of the attack, and I really like Miranchuk, so it's just like the fact that we were able to nullify it gives me a lot more confidence going forward because I thought that our defense was going to be something that our defense and our finishing was going to be really, really a big issue, and it doesn't seem like the defense is that big of an issue when we were able to keep Cincinnati to just 1 goal and Atlanta not even having 1 against us. So I think it gives us a lot of confidence going forward. I don't want to see the game to see how they were able to nullify the opposition and compare it a little bit to Cincinnati, because I think that's something that Sandra is pretty good at. Even against Galaxy when we had to for the final where we didn't even have our starting center back, he was able to keep Galaxy pretty quiet and like not give out too much. So I think that's something that Sandra does pretty well, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. Let me give you guys. We'll kind of, because we're getting close to halftime here. I'll list them off pretty quick, and you guys can just kind of give thoughts on maybe a block of games here. So, DC United over Sporting Kansas City 2-1 in a battle of kind of 2 cruddy teams, in my opinion. Cincy beats a bad Toronto FC team 2-0. Philadelphia wins again 2-0 over New England on the road, and then New York City FC over Orlando 2-1. New York did have a red card in that one as well, so ended up getting that despite going down to 10 men in the 86th minute. So, and Luis Muriel getting a goal for Pix.
Yeah.
So anything out of those couple standing out?
I think the biggest one there is probably the Philly one.
Yeah.
I don't think New England is a team that's terribly terrifying in the East or anything like that. But the fact that they're able to do it on the road and score just 2 and win convincingly is something that is very impressive when it comes to Philly, and it's a team that no one expected anything out of in the beginning. So
my biggest surprise of the year by far. I honestly have no idea how they're doing it. Like it's shades of the Bradley Carnell in St. Louis start in their expansion year where just no one saw it coming. It is very much, they're a fun team to watch. I think Ty Baribo has 6 goals in 3 games or something like that, and like just about all of them, if you look at his expected goals, I think it's in like the 2s still, because it's all tap-ins. So like, just because their style of play is so beautiful and they're turning everyone over. So it's pretty impressive what they're doing right now. I think Quinn Sullivan's like kind of taking a step too, which is cool to see with how much notoriety his brother gets, obviously being the youngest.
He's been very good. I've been really impressed with him. He's fun to watch.
So yeah, I would encourage those to check out if you guys are trying to get into MLS. If you're in the chat, Philadelphia is a team that is definitely unique to what's going on right now in the league. But yeah, let's round out the final couple here. I got 6 total games left. So I'll run through the scores of those quick. Colorado gets a win on the road against Austin FC. That kind of contributes to Austin FC kind of stumbling out of the gates here despite spending about $30 million on their attack over the offseason. So that's not great. Chicago Fire came back from 1-0 down to win 3-1 on the road against Dallas, which was kind of a surprise. So Berhalter's first win at Chicago. Nashville SC beating Portland 2-0 at home. So that was Nashville's first win. San Diego beat Salt Lake on the road 3-1. I think two goals late in the like 89th and 90th minute for San Diego were
assist by my boy too.
Yeah, Anders Dreyer getting the winner in the I think like the 89th minute or something like that.
No, it was more than that. 91st and 96th minute for those last two goals. Yeah,
super late. So that's pretty crazy. Dreyer's been so good. And then final two games, Vancouver beats Montreal. The biggest notable about that one though, Ryan Gauld non-contact injury, and they're saying that sounds like it's a torn ACL.
No.
So that's really bad, and really sucks for Vancouver, who were off to like their best start in team history. That's one of the two undefeated teams. It's them and Philly. So that's really too bad. I do like with them. I would definitely say that's gonna like really tank their ability to do much.
I think he's so central to the team.
Yeah, that guy is one of the most underrated players in MLS. He's super, super good. And then last but not least, we gotta just show a little love to Minnesota United beating an undefeated San Jose team on the road. Kelvin Yeboah with the goal in the 32nd minute. We legitimately won that game with 27% possession. So for what it's worth, San Jose doing a lot of possession, but little to show with it. I think 17 total shots, and I think they only had like one or two on net. Like just did nothing with it. I honestly say that game probably should have been a little bit worse. No bias on that, but we had 2 or 3 point blank chances. Yeah, even looking at FootMob, I think it was 4 big chances to 2 based on however they judge that. So
I really like Yeboah though.
Point blank.
He's sweet.
Dude, he's so good. And came in from the Italian league, played with Genoa, and then kind of bounced around on loans. Belgian league. That guy profiles as like, I think, kind of doing the hop here back over to Europe in a couple of years. But
who do you guys have next, Biz?
Special. We have a pretty favorable schedule. I'm actually really happy with what it looks like here over the next couple. So we have Sporting Kansas City next on the road. Then we get the Galaxy. So me and Dill going head to head as well. 3:30 on Saturday, March 22nd. Salt Lake after that. So it's like 3 teams that are in the bottom of the Western Conference. So
that's pretty good. I actually might take my nephews to their first soccer game ever.
Hell yeah, man! That's
next weekend where we face Orlando.
All right. Game just started up too. Not to interrupt you, picks, but
yep. I think the timer's right on. All right.
Let's do it.
2 goals from the Galaxy. I'm hoping. My guess was 2-0. I know one of you said 2-1 bid or
2-1. Yeah. I just did not trust in Galaxy to keep a clean sheet with the defense.
Was that the goal that you were expecting?
Yeah, something like that. That sounds about right. Chaos. If I'm being real. Yeah, with the first goal we saw in me and Pix's watch party with San Diego, where it was literally just the goalie out of the back. It's literally just. I think there's going to be a lot of the longer you guys play out of the back. I just think there's going to be more of that.
Issues, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pee really quick because I just want to get the timer set up, and I'm gonna grab a snack. But I'll be
right back. You're all good. We'll hold down the fort. No, I do think the Galaxy can bounce back on this. Like we said, I think the run of play and the run of chances were really stemming through. Royce looked great. I think that
Royce looked really nice.
If you can get Peck involved a little bit more in this half, I think that's probably the key to this one is trying to get him on the ball a little bit more. Felt like
play a little bit more forward.
Yeah, he was a little bit. He was neutralized in this first half, and I think that if you want to win this game, he probably needs to get one if we're being real here. So
something I'd love to see, especially while Dill isn't here, would be for Klaus to get the goal.
Dude, that João Klaus goal would be brutal. All right. Ooh, opportunity here. Wasted it on a half volley. But yeah.
And it's not even like bad decision makings that has been the reason the Galaxy haven't scored. It's just a lot of it has been a lack of luck in at least 2 or 3 of the chances.
Yeah. I think some execution on the final decision too has been, whether it's just how the shots are coming to be, like choosing to volley it when maybe you should bring it down, choosing to,
or not to pass.
Yeah, take an extra dribble, choosing that extra pass. It's like it's been kind of that final little bit. So yeah, but we have 2 teams that are choosing to elect to play out of the back despite heavy presses out of the gates where teams aren't letting them. So that's been something that
Out
I,
of
I
the,
think is added to the kind of the electrifying nature of this one, where it's been kind of back and forth,
Yeah.
which has been good for a watch
Yeah.
party.
No, it has been very good. Out of the slate, have there been any teams besides a team like Galaxy that you would say have been underperforming overall?
Mm,
The Galaxy.
let me see.
Besides
Yeah,
Galaxy, yeah.
besides the Galaxy. Let me look at the league standings here really quick, and I can kind of pinpoint a couple here for you.
I noticed Jaden Nelson wasn't in the squad for that Vancouver game. I wonder
Yeah,
if
he got
was
hurt in that.
Ah,
He
man.
got hurt in that. It doesn't sound like it was as bad, but he got hurt in that Champions League game. Let me see here. So, I would probably point to. I mean, Atlanta United's on 4 points through 3 and sitting in 11th. Yeah. Oh no! Oh no! No!
What is that celebration?
Oh no! I have no idea.
I don't even want to do it in front of the camera.
How far are you? You guys are far ahead of me. Dang, I need to reach time. What the hell? Don't do that.
Oh no!
That was a nice shot, though.
Was that Hartle? Who was that?
It looked like
That made me sad.
threw ball through.
Well, we may be cooked, but I have hope. I have hope.
No, all of us are wrong. None of us said St. Louis too.
I thought about it. I thought at home like they would finally sort it out here maybe, but yeah, St. Louis has been taking advantage of kind of almost equating it to what the Minnesota United game looked like a little bit last night in certain spots. I don't think San Jose necessarily had as many chances as the Galaxy had, but it's been like doing a lot with a little possession and like being really concise with your couple big opportunities, like they're cashing home on them. I mean, obviously the first goal from the Galaxy was definitely like gifted, but that was just not, I mean, that throughout was just a counter opportunity with kind of a lack of an angle. And it was really nice.
That was a really nice goal.
They messed with Garces and Yoshida's positioning so much there.
Yeah.
They were able to drive them out really well.
So that was debut or designated player's first goal for St. Louis. That was that Marcel Hartle, he was brought in from FC St. Pauli over the offseason. So that was his first goal contribution with the team.
Wow, they're even struggling to get it out of their own half now. Galaxy.
Yeah, well, I think Vanny should probably be looking to. I don't even know what's on their bench right now. That's the other thing. It's like you guys are just so banged up. It's like there's like who make changes, but it's
they're
like,
all like true backups. There's no like like just like we need them if guys are tired.
Let me look on this bench right now.
And the other thing is you guys have a midweek game coming up too that you guys need to win.
Zavaleta, Julian Ade, Matthias Jurgensen, Elijah Winder, Ruben Ramos, Tucker Lepley, and Miguel Berry is your bench right now. That is like you don't even have a full bench. I think you're missing one.
We don't.
Holy hell, man! Yeah, that is brutal.
I'll drive down there. Holy shit!
Oh my god!
He had him frozen. His feet were glued to the ground.
Dude.
Whoa.
Oh, that was such a nice.
This is how it happens, though. Oh, Christian, brick feet.
He's just a little bit too slow there.
Yeah, he
is. 4-on-2.
He's the perfect example of he is gonna struggle so hard without the pencil peck like byline attack that Ramirez is gonna be just he's just I mean Ramirez is just your tap in merchant, man. Like he's been doing that his whole career. He's always in the right spot, but him in open play, it's just not gonna work. I'd say to answer your question, 2 picks now, just since we got sidetracked by the goal, I would say Orlando City is probably the one that I would point to as being the one that's underachieving the most out of the gate. 3 points through 3 games, sitting in 12th place right now. It's like them and Atlanta United sitting like outside looking in.
And they comfortably got into a playoff spot last year.
Yeah, so. I mean they were a couple goals away from an MLS Cup final. I mean, so it's that was kind of the tail of the tape. So yeah, I would say that's
even
definitely
with Muriel and their DP and Muriel struggling.
They had that really good penalty shootout win where their keeper went crazy.
Yeah. Glace is a monster in those usually.
Where's he from?
I would say
he's their national team keeper.
He's Peruvian. Yeah, Peruvian national team keeper. Yeah. The one thing I will say about Orlando City though is I have like their designated player they signed from the Croatian league. Pasalic has looked really good. So I do think that's they've hit on that.
Pasalic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So he's looked really good. I think he at least has a goal. Maybe he might have two.
Baron,
I
thank
forget
you
if
for the
he's
follow, bro. Welcome. Yeah, I haven't. I feel like I don't pay attention enough to Orlando. There's just so many teams. MLS is a kind of like
30 teams.
it is overwhelming. It is overwhelming. Oh damn.
I can only imagine like someone who knows nothing about U.S. geography having to choose a team. How overwhelming 30
Right.
teams is.
Yeah. If I wanted to get into MLS, I wouldn't even know where to start. It's.
I know. Okay, here's a question. My buddies were over before they left today, and we were watching the back half of the Arsenal Man United game. And it was three of us, and one doesn't watch. And he's like, he wants to get into Premier League soccer, like as just an American sports fan, because he's interested, but he has like no clue where to start with fandom because he doesn't really know any players. Like, and you can kind of equate that, like, compare this to the MLS too. But like, what do you do as like a fan coming in who doesn't know anything about like the sport? You know the sport, but you don't know the landscape of the sport. I guess we can kind of equate that to MLS too.
Yeah,
but
I think that one of the best,
point?
and this doesn't answer your question that well, but one of the best ways to get into soccer is through the World Cup and the Euros.
Sorry.
And the Copa America. No, you're good. Like those international tournaments where you already have like a team to go for.
Sure.
I think
That's a good point.
Good.
And then you like attach yourself to an American and then find
because you learn the players, because you learn the big name, like who was the big name players at the Euros, who were the big name teams, and then you start recognizing like, oh shit, Spain has a lot of Barca players. Maybe that's a team that I might like.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the international game is probably like one of the best ways for people to know.
That's a good
and
point.
to get to know the game.
Yeah, international's a really good spot because I feel like there's not like it's pretty easy to catch on to like if you start watching Euros or World Cup or like where it's like the country stuff is really easy to pick up on. It's like, okay, this country against this. It's kind of like why I think the Olympics does so well, why the World Cup does so well, because it's really easy for a casual to just plug themselves in and be like, this guy's really good and he plays for them. And it's like there's no like lore of a team or like long-term equity of it. I mean, there is, but it's like it's not paramount to knowing it in order to like really, really enjoy it. I would say too, for me, like I know when I first started, I would honestly just say kind of like identify for whatever reason. It's similar to like choosing an FM save. I would say it really is just like throw a dart and pick a team, and then if you do, I would say like just YouTube is a really good resource for it. So like diving in and saying like just do a Google search on said team and like just say I want to learn about whoever it is, Tottenham, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal. Like pick one of those teams and just kind of like run through, and you'll kind of get like probably a YouTube video that pops up on like here's like the base history of said team and like the big players to know. And it's like if you have just that base template of like a 7 to 10 minute video, it's like then you can kind of dive in and then it's just about learning the current roster and kind of figuring it out from there.
For sure. They were about to get off onto another chance. Caceres blocked that pass well to Klaus.
And specifically, like if you're getting them into the Premier League, just tell them to avoid Tottenham at all costs.
Come on, dog. You don't need to be doing all that. We're a humble team. A humble.
You're gonna make them share the pain. You're gonna make them hate soccer.
One of my friends who's there is a Tottenham fan with me, and then the other guy's a Chelsea fan, and then.
Well, then you got to do Arsenal or something.
We told him anybody but Arsenal when we were watching the game. I was like, it's hard because he's a big Rams fan for the NFL, and we were basically like, I sent him memes sometimes where it's like, this NFL team equates the most to this Premier League team or something like that. But,
those are fun. Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard. I feel like if I had to start over again, I'd probably be like and this is just from my understanding of the teams right when I got into it, either a Fulham or a Brighton fan. Fulham just because they had the American heritage with a lot of players, and then Brighton just because they're just such a video game style building of a team, Moneyball to an extent.
Fulham was actually was the team that made me do Little America because that was like kind of the concept.
Oh, that was a knuckler.
I thought that was gonna curl. It was one of those where kind of outside in. Yeah, kind of outside in instead.
What did your friend think of the game, by the way?
He was on TikTok.
Oh.
No, he was watching parts of it, but it's like he doesn't know any of the lore, and that was a good game though. That was I honestly really liked that game. That Declan Rice goal was sweet.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch it, and I saw that I heard Arteta walked out the press conference.
Yeah, when they asked him about it's hopes of the championship.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like what, 15
That's
points
me and
down.
FM, to be fair.
God, it's gotten to that level now. They're that far behind.
They're so
Yeah, 'cause they just
Liverpool are
drew
so
against
far
United.
up.
No
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Salah just got 2 penalties. I did watch that.
Oh, I
Can't miss
love that
it.
for FPL.
Yeah.
We got to get you in the
I was just-
FPL league next year, Biz.
Yeah, I know. I really do need to try. Like I try every year, and I just like I can't do the early starts for EPL. I just don't care enough to do it. It's like it's the issue.
Okay, thank you, Caceres.
Getting up that early for a team that I just don't identify with as mine, even though like I follow how Brighton does, obviously, but like I don't know. It's
I
tough.
know it's hard. I get it. Oh my God, bro, the goalie.
Well, it's even it'd be one thing if I didn't have my own team, but it's just like the fact that I have the loons. It's just like I'm so whatever about actually like trying to identify one.
Yeah,
I mean, like
yeah.
and actually because it's like I have one, so it's like I'm not
Especially when you've had such a long time of being a soccer fan where you didn't have
Yeah.
a team. Like
Yeah.
now that you actually have something, like
I agree. No, I totally understand that. It's hard. That's why I feel like it's hard for me to like watch NBA.
especially for
again.
you, Dill, with your time zone where you wake up at like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
I literally,
Depends my
I
schedule,
oftentimes fall asleep middle of the game and wake up and we're losing. So it's like so early watching in bed.
but-
I one time I fell asleep like 20 minutes in 0-0. I dreamt that we went up 3-1. I woke up we were losing 2-0.
No.
I literally dreamt of victory. And I was like,
I would go back
"Yes."
to bed after that. I'm not
I
getting
was
up.
I was
after
so
that
pissed.
one.
I was so pissed. All
All right, Miguel Berry on for
Mhm.
Ramirez and Julian Ade on for. I didn't see. Oh,
I don't
I'm
know,
assuming
but
Herbert
Winder's
Miller.
coming
I'm
in
assuming
for
Herbert Miller,
Cerrillo. Yeah,
and then
I would
Cerrillo
assume.
on for Winder. Or no, for Nelson. So Ade actually over to the left hand side. They're
Mhm.
leaving Herbert Miller on. Interesting.
He's definitely more offensive than what's his name?
Yeah,
Nelson.
they need more. That's the biggest thing that I've been saying. I think why Marco Royce needs to like really stamp his involvement in the game and be more free roaming. Because that was the thing I noticed against Herediano, that they started to have Pectu where he was sliding into the middle like a lot of times where he was carrying the ball through and like almost trying to like create by being more present and not just like locking his heels to the sidelines anymore. And I think like Royce needs to be more free flowing and drop similar to like how Pooj used to drop to the ball, just like to help create a little bit more. Cause I mean, they're just so in need of being able to have somebody just start dominating the playmaking style. They just need something with that where Peck's able to just like lock in and be able to try to find runs and find open space. But I don't know. It also, I'm still in the camp that I think it might need to be Peck that does that. Cause I just think he just needs to be on the ball as much as humanly possible. And he's not doing it without, with trying to wait for somebody to do it for him. I feel like it's just like he has to create more.
Good build up. Looks like we changed our shape. We're kind of going 3 center backs. We pushed up the wing backs pretty high, our full backs to wing
They
backs.
go five,
Yeah.
5 in the bit. Yeah,
It seems like
it would
with
make
Winder.
sense with Ade coming on, trying to figure out how to do that.
9-11.
Oh, now
Was
we're
that-
not getting the goal I wanted, Biz.
Mr. Klaus, no,
Betcher coming in for Klaus.
yeah, and then Toy Shirt off as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with Ange HD. I think if anything, it happens at the end of the season. I don't think we're gonna do anything mid-season. It doesn't seem like there's a point.
So many managers are like that too. With I don't know how much Amarin has
Yeah.
on him as well. Especially if they finish like 15th.
Yeah, they've definitely changed how they've used Royce over the first couple of games. HD just out of like sheer necessity.
Yeah, we kind of
'Cause
need him to play
They're
up more.
so scrapped in the midfield right now. They have like, I mean, there's so many injuries in this team, so it's like he's kind of just forced out of like sheer like need that no one else can do it. He's actually, I mean, this game he's actually, in my opinion, not looked terrible for what they're asking him to do. With
There's
with
a lot
his
of the
age.
times where like he just can't do what's like it just doesn't fit his role at all.
Yeah,
What's being asked of him, and he just looks really
I
bad.
mean, the amount of movement they're asking from him today is like insane. How much is required for him to probably like get what is needed to be done?
I was gonna say that was a full-on foul. It was a 2-arm push in his chest.
I know that was wild.
it just kind of like, I think with it too, like almost like watching this Galaxy team right now with like how much they have going against them in the midfield. It almost feels, doesn't it almost feel like they're just kind of like playing with like ankle weights and build up, where they're just like, they seem so slow to develop everything. Like everything is like St. Louis is always like a step ahead of them
before we even pass forward, and it
yeah
seems so
yeah
pointless.
Yeah.
Oh my
it just
God, what
seems
is
so
that?
slow. Like right, it just seems so slow moving, where it's just like the decision making so slow.
Royce, yeah, you could even tell by the body language. Like Royce got pissed.
Yeah.
He got the ball and then passed it laterally, and then one of like the people who was in line with him passed it back, and you could tell Royce was pissed about that.
No,
Oh no! And Winder takes a bad step and almost loses it in transition. Then too.
There we go. Come on.
Yeah, it's been a touch too slow. Like their first.
That's what you need. You need Pack needs to be on the ball in those dangerous little pockets.
I know
there.
they moved him in with this. Here we go. Come on.
There it is.
Oh!
Oh my god!
That was Pack too. That's exactly what you want. Oh my god! It's like the lone guy on the lone guy on the field that I would say wouldn't have done that. Oh my god.
Dog. That made me sad.
That was beautiful. Royce with a little drop pass too. He just flat missed that hard.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Royce at Dortmund. Watching Gladbach.
I know HD said it's like one of his favorites too.
Yeah. So it sucks that he hasn't been able to like really like change Galaxy, and that hasn't been expected of him.
Yeah,
with Bruges.
He's supposed to be supplementary. But
yeah, he's one of those that has come over here where he's not on a designated player deal or anything like that. So like that him, it's very different between him coming over here and then like Giroud.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you know what I mean, where Giroud's like wasting a designated player spot with not contributing anything. Oh goodness. I didn't even think of the Berkey and Royce connection too, where they
they played at Dortmund
They
together.
definitely know each other. Yeah, they know each other.
We're probably gonna have a drink after this game.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't even think about that.
Royce knows all these guys. He could be the 8th.
Oh, because they're all German.
Yeah. That made me sad. Come on. It's not looking good. When we put Miguel Berry on while we're down, I don't have much hope.
Yeah, I literally was gonna say that with Ramirez coming off. I'm like, there's your solution, Miguel Berry coming on. Like, it's not great. A guy that I don't like. Once Nascimento is healthy, I don't think we'll see the field like probably much for the rest of the year.
So you think Nascimento is probably going to be like the second in line for sure?
They gave him the 9, so
that's true. That's true.
So I assume he's I think he's like a prospective player that they bring in as a backup.
He's an
but
under 22 signing, isn't he? Like,
if he finds some form, I could think he could unseat Ramirez.
Like he is one of their DPs. I'm pretty, or one of their under 22 DPs.
He is, yeah. And he was good. He was good in Brazil. Like he's a hot prospect.
What team did he come from?
I think Botafogo.
This isn't updated.
Oh, okay, nice.
Maybe he's actually not. It doesn't have it on the depth chart that I'm pulling up.
Let's see. Yeah. They're the black stripes, right? Botafogo. Yeah. He's on loan with a possibility to buy, I think.
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe if he's on loan, maybe that's why he's not at under 22, because maybe they were able to shave the salary down enough.
Yeah, we were talking about that, Boris. That was funny. The 15-point gap or whatever.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Liverpool, dude, Saul is just on a generational season, man.
Yeah, I looked at his stats because I was like kind of going through just because
video game.
Benny sent me that. He's like, Brighton's won like 6 in a row. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't realize they were on like that insane of a run. And so like I looked, I'm like, yeah, I'll be damned, they're like right there for Europe again. Like just they were like down to like 11th or 12th. But then I started looking through like some of the Golden Boot stuff, and I saw Salah was up there, so I clicked on him, just seeing because he was like significantly higher. And then I looked at like his assist tally too, and I'm like, what in the hell? Like it's like a video game, man.
I feel like the only other guy having a season like that is Rafinha.
Yeah, Rafinha.
Yeah,
crazy.
I saw his his player rating and stuff like for Champions League, and I was like, I don't know. Did anyone see that coming? Has that like been a thing, or is that just kind of like out of the blue that he's like turned into that?
I mean, they expected
like there was flashes of it, yeah, but it never
but
like him with the German coach Hansi Flick has just like really revolutionized his playing style and given it
Yeah, that makes
that
sense.
extra dynamic that he needed. Because at Leeds, you could tell that he had like he
Whoa.
was very very good, but there was like kind of like a two-dimensional side to it,
Yeah.
which like you kind of see
Got
with
it.
Anthony
Yeah.
too, where it's like Anthony's including something different to his game
I was,
at Betis, and it's like he's kind of cooking.
we were watching a little bit of
How has
that today.
Cucho done since he's been over there?
I cannot believe Anthony's still 24. That doesn't seem
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But Cucho,
I haven't seen too
I don't
much
think
of
he's scored
Cucho.
yet. He's had some good chances, but he hasn't scored yet. But he
Like,
started.
The other
Goals,
thing
goals,
is
assists,
the other thing
in
is
4 games.
Cucho wasn't registered for the European competition,
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
Conference
So you
League.
can, yeah,
So it's
I
like
see.
it's a little bit hard to like get accustomed to the team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. He's
Um,
kind of like playing like every other week, kind of
Yeah.
something like that
Uh-huh.
right now.
So I think it'll go well, but the fact that Anthony's been kicking off crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know how many
honestly
Cucho
so
stars
funny.
has. I think it's probably less than 3 though.
The amount of times I've seen Anthony memes like just in the last like year or two, and now all of a sudden it's like they've turned from negative memes to like positive memes. Like
There's this whole
Duncan, it's just
community
kind
of
of turned
them
into
that
Man
just
United.
absolutely love him.
Dude,
Yeah,
that's me.
yeah.
But it's
Like
hard
all
to-
those are my alt accounts.
That's
You've
so
made
funny.
every account. You're all the followers.
No, I love that though, because it's like I do feel bad when you have a player like Anthony that just gets so much
Yeah.
abuse and stuff like that, and it's like, yeah, you're a shit player, like you were shit for United at the time, but you don't deserve like the levels of abuse that he was getting.
I
So
know.
the fact that it's been turned around and he's been able to capitalize and like show who he really is, at least like
Yeah. A
in
player
his
doesn't pick
form.
his price tag either.
That's so true, yeah. And especially with like the whole situation where it was because he got brought in because he had worked with the manager previously and stuff like that. Like that complicates things too. So I don't know. I'd love to see him stay at Betis, but I don't think they have the financial
I don't think so either.
muscle to keep him.
They've got so many names on that team. We were watching it today, and it's just like they got Isco, they got Lorente, they still have Bellerin there.
Yeah, I forgot they had Bellerin. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Bellerin's only like 29.
I know, but he's still like very.
Which is
Okay, I don't like
injury
this.
prone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go, Garces. So yeah, live table right now. If St. Louis City holds on to this, Galaxy would be one of 3 teams that would be winless. It'd be KC, Montreal, and the Galaxy, and it would be St. Louis City would be sitting on 5 points with a win and would move up to 6th in the West. So 2 draws and a win, and then they have Seattle next. Galaxy have Portland next. Is what the road looks like for both these. And then obviously Galaxy also have Herediano here in a couple days,
Big bucks.
which I still do think that you guys can
we
get
need
that
we need
back.
to find some momentum.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
something to look at to write the
Especially
ship.
at home, I think you guys got that, but it's
I
still
do
going to
too. I
be
do
like
too, yeah. That'll be a slog. We need you guys through even at just to the round of 8 for the show out of MLS at least. Like, because I think some MLS teams are about to get thumped and having to go down to Mexico.
So what are there any other teams that are in danger of not making it?
I like
Because
most
Seattle had
like
tied.
CONCACAF Champions League, like with what just happened, like most teams did not do their job at home. So I can kind of give you the
Wow.
the
Okay.
recap of where we're at here. So, all right. So LAFC and Columbus played each other. So that was always, we were going to have somebody coming out of that. And LAFC destroyed Columbus in the first like 3-0. So, Miami played Cavalier. I actually watched the highlight to that. I didn't get to watch that game, but I watched the highlight. Miami did not convincingly win that game, but it
I
was
saw,
2-0.
yeah.
Like-
I saw the first goal.
That Cavalier team, I think they hit the post like 3 times, and then they had a goal wiped off for a controversial offside
Oh,
too.
did they really?
Yeah, so that team kind of balled out a little bit. I think that I actually think you might see Messi play in that other game because he did not play a whole lot today. Vancouver Monterey was 1-1. The weird thing was Vancouver played like a rotational side in that game, like not taking it seriously, and then actually like outplayed Monterey for the most part.
Oh wow.
But now with
What
no
was the
Ryan
score of that?
Gauld,
Sorry?
1-1, so Monterey got the away goal, and now no Ryan Gauld either. So
It's gonna be tough. Yeah.
that's going to be really tough. Pumas and Eliolense was the other one, 2-0. So that's just a Mexican league setup.
Okay.
Chivas, Club America.
Ooh.
Chivas actually won that first
Good
leg.
free kick
1-0.
spot. Oh, I like that. Yellow.
Yeah, there's an opportunity here. Marco Royce, little
He's
banger
already,
one here.
He's already standing there.
Yeah, he knows.
He's like
He
put
knows
the
what's
ball
up.
down right now. Do we? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna final three I have really quick. Seattle tied Cruz Azul 0-0. Cincinnati and Tigres 1-1. So Tigres has the away goal.
Yeah, wow.
And then Herediano beats Galaxy 1-0. So not a single team holds an actual lead over a non MLS team outside of Miami over Cavalier. That's the only one that does.
Maddie, I'm happy. Not with this game.
And an unconvincing one with the Miami one too, as you're saying.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's not. I mean, they're definitely gonna have to bring their team and play that game.
Come on, Royce, please. This is the pivotal moment.
The Sunday night soccer watch party needs a 2-1 here, please. Like just for the vibes.
We need a 3-2. That's what I think we need.
Well, this goes 2-1. It's all of a sudden we got a ball game. All of a
you
sudden.
got Miguel Berry sprinting a little harder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Miguel Berry pressing intensity up twofold at least.
What about speaking of pressing forward types, Josh Sargent 8 goals in his last 8 games.
Right.
Bro, he is on
Isn't
fire
that crazy?
right now. Those are going to be our strike. It's going to be him and probably Brendan Vasquez for our strikers for I think semifinal. We're so.
Do you guys have anything planned? Like any international stuff planned for this upcoming window? Is that Nations League?
Yeah, it's semifinal, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Panama semifinal, and then Canada, Jamaica, and then final. I want to go to one of the games.
Bro, it's literally getting to the point where I'm like more nervous about Panama than Mexico. Like it's getting to that point with how good Panama's been playing in a lot of this stuff.
What about Canada?
Mexico just doesn't. Canada goes without saying for sure. But like,
oh, nice.
Like Canada is officially like usurped as like the two. Panama and Mexico are like. Mexico, I saw a stat like with all the people on rosters in Europe and Nations League. Mexico was the lowest out of the 4 of us now between Canada, Panama, and USA.
It's the whole issue where they can afford to keep their players domestically in the league.
Yeah, they're just not. Well, and on top of it too, it's like you're seeing the thing too where there's the complaints that a lot of their players aren't being developed within Mexico anymore. They're being developed here. Like where they're being developed within a couple of the youth academies down on the California side or the Texas side, and then going back.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, that's a big time problem. So, and it's evident because you're seeing that. I mean, I forgot the number, but it was like staggering between even the drop off between them and Panama with the amount of players playing in Europe. Like, I could not believe the amount of players that Panama had on their preliminary 40, how many of them were in European rosters. I was like actually shocked.
And it's crazy because like Panama is a country that like baseball is also pretty big. And
that's all that's ever been there. Like it's crazy that like they've never given 2 shits about soccer up until like 2 decades ago. All of a sudden, like they had like one golden generation and it like turned everything.
That's all it takes though.
Yeah.
It just changes the culture a little bit.
No, it's weird when you have that kind of shift in CONCACAF for a lot of that stuff. I remember like early days, like Guatemala was okay for a while because you had like Carlos Ruiz, like kind of like that golden generation for Guatemala for a little bit. El Salvador was much better than they've been in the past.
Chile.
Hopefully Honduras are able to capitalize on what they have.
Yeah.
United players.
Honduras was always kind of like what Panama is now, like for a long time. And you've had Trinidad's really fallen off a cliff. They had a golden generation in like the 90s, early 2000s.
Apparently Greenwood is getting like confirmed to
I saw that for Jamaica. Jamaica's going to take a big step with a couple of these guys they've gotten on dual nationals.
I hope the US guys fucking like 2-foot his ass.
Yeah, I know. I'll be curious how much he elevates Jamaica, because Jamaica is one of those two where they definitely have been kind of a product of, I feel like, just like their whatever tactic that they're running out, they have the talent when players are there. Like there's a lot of really good players that are Jamaican. It is like
whatever issues they have in their federation is just it reflects in the soccer with a lot of players complaining about it and saying like that there's like just such unprofessionalism that they don't want to play. So and like if Jamaica were to have like a good federation and were to take it seriously, I think that they could be top 3 easily.
I saw too that the player that we kind of identified and liked the last time, I might have been doing a watch party, but like I really was pointing out to that Shamar Nicholson, and he was playing at like Spartak Moscow, I think. He just transferred into Club Tijuana like within the last like couple months.
Oh, the
Dude,
So
it's
he's
always
the
it's always so
striker?
hard with the Russian teams.
the big
Yeah.
big target guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
he plays for Tijuana now.
I didn't know
That's
that.
cool.
That's cool.
And that makes a ton of sense for him because it's like ease of access to. I don't really know what playing in the Russian. I'm sure he got compensated well, but like I don't really know like what.
It's
playing in the
tough
Russian
because
league.
they're all like a lot of Colombians go to the Russian league because they have a lot of money.
Yeah,
And it's just like you see it on like because it's especially like for the national team, you can compare like the level of play of someone who's been playing in the Russian league for 3 years versus someone who's been in Belgium and something like that. And
you
it's just
fall
like
off the
they
face of the
stagnate.
earth on
They
scouting
stagnate
and
really
stuff. Yeah,
because they're only playing Russian opposition because they're not in any international competitions. Like back in the day, the Russian league was, probably like one of the top 5 leagues in Europe, especially in like the Champions League. And with the money they had, like Zenit, they would always buy people. Like they had Hulk for the longest time.
Yeah,
I remember those days.
CSKA
Anzi
was really good too.
Anzi way back in the day buying Atto before they went under.
Yeah. I remember
that's
that team.
Honda played for Moscow.
Yeah.
And it just like it's always a gamble with players coming in from the Russian league, with the lack of international football now. And like some players have even come back. Like there's one Colombian center midfielder who was there who's now at River, and it's just like he isn't making the same amount of money, but it's just like River is just so much more. It's just so much better.
Yeah,
for his development,
big time step up. Yeah. And we were talking. I was hanging out in Buckstream earlier, and just when I was editing some videos, and the talk was kind of about like the Club World Cup, and I just kind of made the point about like how I don't think obviously any team is like challenging Europe like to like overtake them by any means, but you're definitely seeing some of these leagues starting to push Europe a little bit. I think just with like some of the player recruitment that's starting to come out, like
even with Brazil.
South
Brazil
America, like with the Palmeiras.
Yeah,
that's huge. I think like North America now, MLS is starting to like throw its weight around a little bit more than it has in the past. Like still not like, this where there needs to be concern, but it's like between those two places, and then you have the Saudis throwing around a bunch of money with
how often
that,
is
like,
Club World Cup anyways?
It's gonna be the same thing as the regular World Cup. It's like every 4, right? Yeah.
And the other big thing about that is like with the South Americans, you'll have them holding on to their talent, not selling their assets.
Well, with the prize money that was just announced, absolutely, like trying to get something out of that. Where it's
like Flamengo have an insane right back named Wesley, who like everybody wants, but they're like, I don't care how much money you're offering, we're gonna keep him until the Club World Cup ends. And like you could have players that are like Endrick, Estevao, those type of players who like it's in their contract that they have to play until the Club World Cup ends. And I think that the MLS might start doing,
that's interesting.
Trying to like Seattle's been trying to build extra hard this season, I would say.
Yeah, Seattle's the one that's irritated me more than anything, because I feel like there was a big opportunity for them to go out and maybe like throw some money around. I know there was like really, really light tentative rumors on like the KDB stuff got kicked around to them a little bit before San Diego was like the biggest rumor for them.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of fizzled. And I just can't believe that they weren't able to be linked with like their pedigree as a club. I mean, they've been probably one of the 2 most successful clubs over the last decade in MLS. Like they've been a very good team, really good stadium, good support group, like can pay you well as a designated player if you're bringing in some. It's like the fact that the decision was to go and sign a bunch of U.S. domestics in, no hate to Ferreira and Ariel. And I do think that team will be competitive in MLS, but I just think you could have really swung and brought in some big players. So
JG, welcome in. Do we see the LA Galaxy coming back right now? No. I think we've had our chances. We've had 2 really solid chances, and we haven't been able to capitalize. I feel like that dude, that pet goal, you could have passed it in and you just kind of.
I know you guys still being on a 0, because I think we saw at halftime St. Louis was sitting on like a
we were almost
2 XG
at 1,
and you guys were almost at 1. Yeah. So the fact that you guys, at that point with these 2 other opportunities, it's like you guys are going to probably be fairly close to that as well. It's just one of those games, and it's kind of just a microcosm of the season, honestly, for you guys too, where it's the lack of playmakers in the team right now with no Puig, Paintsel not widening the field and giving you guys width on the other side and vertically stretching the opposition's defensive line too, and making them kind of be on their P's and Q's about like having to look over their shoulders. And it just makes such a difference when your whole team identity is like dictated by that play style. It's so hard to adapt to that when all that's gone. So, well, yeah,
it's tough.
It's not looking good.
Now Royce out.
Not looking good.
Probably
Yeah, that's
I
almost
didn't
like
think
a
Royce
player
was gonna-
outside of Peck.
I'm surprised Royce played like even 82 minutes with the game coming up.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Lepley, I don't know him. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe the Herediano game will give me some hope.
I would say that's like kind of the first domino to drop here for you guys, where it's if you can get past that and just even get to the round of 8.
Yeah.
I think that's winning one round against a team, a Costa Rican team that, for those that don't know, Costa Rica's, probably the number 3 league in competitiveness right now based on just like what the rosters look like. And so every now and again you will see some Costa Rican teams upset a Mexican team or an MLS team, but
nice.
it's happening less and less.
That's great. Oh my god.
Oh.
Wow.
That's the kind of stuff they need to happen if they want to pull a point at least.
Yeah.
That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
An absolute wonder strike.
Like
yeah, him dribbling through about half the team.
That was amazing from him though. His dribbling was better than the shot.
That
even.
defender really.
And that shot was great.
Like tried to like block it from so far out.
Dude, it was weird. He like tripped on himself.
Yeah. Mariner says,
That's
"What do we
good.
think of the away goals rule?"
Yeah, I don't know. What's your guys' take on it? I've touched on it a little bit for.
What were you
I think it's
on?
a little league dependent for me. I definitely think like in situations like the CONCACAF Champions League, I think it benefits. Like it just gives an extra way for a lot of the superior teams to benefit and move through. So perfect example was the the 3. Oh no.
Don't do that. Oh, to be
the
fair,
full arms cross.
I don't mind that. I'd hope my guys would do the same thing.
Jesus, man. I mean, are there Galaxy boos?
Who's Patrick Mahomes in the crowd? What the Chiefs jersey?
Yeah, I saw that.
This is bad.
This is tough. It looks more lively for the San Diego game at least, but yeah, you can tell it's starting to be a little bit of a mentality thing where some heads are dropping and stuff. It's what happens when it's consistently bad for a bit. It just gets harder and harder to deal with. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about?
Wow.
What do you guys think about the away goals rule?
That was a great.
Just to avoid talking about the result more for Dill. Change the subject.
I don't love away. I don't love the away goals. You're already giving. You're already playing. At both places, so I think that you're weighting it well enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really care for it too much, and especially because it's just like, I don't know. I don't think that you need that anymore, really.
Yeah, I agree.
I was kind of gonna use the example too, where prior to the red card for that Cavalry Pumas game, Cavalry walked into that game 2-1 up, but they were technically only kind of a half goal up with that away goal going in, and they play up until getting a red card, I think in the early 30th minute or something like that. Just a classic CONCACAF fashion for a Mexican team to fish one out from a team that is the underdog. But I mean, if you take that away and actually would have played that game straight up, I firmly believe that Cavalry had a real chance of competing in that. But the likelihood of them walking away even on full strength was really unlikely, because your back's against the wall. It's having to go into a harsh environment. You already did your job winning 2-1 in another one. If you manage to keep that game 1-0 and put it 2-2, you should be able to have an opportunity to go to extra time and go to penalties. I just think that it's benefiting the teams that are superior and giving you one extra little bailout to be able to, make your way into the next round, in my opinion. So I think in certain aspects, in certain leagues where maybe the reputation's higher and it's more prestigious teams going head to head, it makes sense. But continental competitions where you have varying levels of ability of teams, I think it's just a really big it's kind of a middle finger to some of those smaller teams, in my opinion, because it's just how frustrating would that be if you ended up as Cavalry, you're in the CPL, you beat a League MX team for the first time in history, win it 2-1, and then you go down there and play them to a 1-0 game, and technically you tie them 2-2 on aggregate, but you lose because that team held you to a shutout solely just on their own home field. Like that to me is not a way that things should be dictated and decided.
I will say though,
silly.
some of the second legs drama is so fun. Like
It is, yeah.
Even
It
though I
definitely
don't
adds to
like
it.
it overall,
sure.
and I think that it's probably worse.
Mhm.
I will say like the second leg drama is insane sometimes. And we're gonna see that this coming week with
Very true. Yeah.
most of them being played in Mexico, right? This.
Yeah, very true. I would say a majority of them for the MLS teams that drew Mexican teams are
So
playing.
they're at a disadvantage now, and I think that there's more storylines when it comes to it. But I'm also someone who thinks that there's also like I think that the more simplification where it's like if I have someone like Dill's friend coming over and something like that, just showing someone the game for the first time, I don't think that oh like who's winning right now, and it's like oh like Galaxy's winning, but like I don't think that's helpful for the sport.
Yeah, the explanation definitely is a little tricky to be able to try to articulate that to somebody that's not aware of it. Kind of like I said, it really is like you're like almost giving like it's like a half goal, like it's like kind of like this like little half goal lead.
That's what they call it in Spanish, I'm pretty sure, where it's it's a half goal advantage more so than
yeah.
It really is. It's just like it's utilized as like that extra tiebreaker, so it like really is just like a extra little nudge to help you. But I don't know, Dill. What do you guys think on just with dropping this one? If you guys were to drop this and drop the Herediano result, like what does that mean for going forward into the year? Well, it's not even necessarily that. It's like, is this just one of those seasons where it's just like, can you already call it that early? Or
no, it's
something that
scrap and make the playoffs and then make a run.
Yeah,
it's not quarter. It's like if this is how we're gonna look until we get most of our team back, it's basically just put yourself in a position where you're near the fringes of the playoffs, or it's realistic that you can jump into the playoff picture, and then you're healthy and you're in form at the end of the season. Much like a lot of regular season strategies for American sports teams. That's kind of where my mind's at. I think this is like this.
Yeah, that's the summer transfer window.
Yeah, this time for us is going to be our lowest point. This football, I think we're only going to improve from like it could get worse in terms of like this moment, but I think this is going to be the worst stretch of games for us throughout the whole season. I would.
So let me just kind of go over your guys' upcoming schedule here till the end of March, because the rumor is that Yamane and Paintsel are supposed to be back by end of March. So if we're just saying they come back like the first game in April, okay, these are the games that you guys would have up until that point. So you would have Herediano second leg. Okay. So with that, if you guys win that and do what you're supposed to do, that would obviously add games to that as well, wedged in there, where you're probably playing a couple midweek games in between these games as well. So you have that game on Wednesday. Then Sunday next week, you guys are the early game against Portland on the road. So you have to go to Providence Park to play against Portland.
Portland have been disappointing too, right?
They're kind of like, I think they've pulled a result. They're kind of middle of the road right now. Early start.
They went at the start, I think.
Yeah, they did. I think it was like a late game winner for one of them. The 22nd, Saturday, you guys have the Loons. So you guys have us at 3:30 on Saturday. Then you would have March 29th, you have the kind of underachieving late night game against the underachieving Orlando City.
Okay.
And then your first game in April would be Real Salt Lake on the road. So you have one home game after this now too. So you'd have Portland on the road, Minnesota on the road, and then Orlando at home is what you'd have. And then any Champions League games you have resulting in the Herediano result.
I feel like what I would, I don't know. I don't even know what to expect from that. I would want at least, give me 4 points out of the 4 MLS games just to right the ship. Maybe a win and a tie, and 2 might not go our way. Obviously, Real Salt Lake and Orlando City feel like good targets for us to get points off. Minnesota, I feel like could just, catch us. And then the first one, Portland, I'm worried about, to be honest. I feel like Portland would kind of work us like St. Louis, maybe.
The one thing I'll say with like our matchup, if we're just gonna like do a quick little breakdown of Minnesota Galaxy, the thing that I noticed with us that I think is going to be a really unique thing going forward into the year for us, we do not want the ball against anyone, like at all. And I think that is really good, like a good strategy that we saw against like a San Jose, where it's a team that I do think that's probably a playoff team. Nice Berkey. But I think it's going to be a real challenge in games where the biggest thing that we saw was against Montreal, where they didn't even have a shot on target against us. And we were just like begging that team to take the ball, and they just had nothing to do with it. And we just couldn't create anything off the counter press or anything like that because they just weren't creating anything. Sure. So it was like they weren't trying to progress the ball forward. And so for us, like I kind of walked out of that game questioning the 5-3-2, where we were just like, maybe it would be more optimal to have us just run like a 4-3-3 and actually try to go at teams that we view as being more inferior. Sure. So I'll be curious to see too, when we play teams that are lower in the table than us that might not necessarily want the ball either, like what those games are going to look like. And we might match up bad against those teams is like how I've kind of identified that it might be, because we're giving the ball to a team that might not may view it as being kind of an opportunistic thing where maybe they haven't been capable of having the ball much, and it's like now we're just kind of like laying back and allowing them to like have free chances to create, and it like kind of motivates some of these teams, because that's what we really saw against Montreal, where it was, I mean, you're keeping the team engaged on a team that probably is in the same boat where they're used to counterattacking and stuff like that. So so I don't know, I'll be curious though. The Galaxy, like you said, I think a 4-point target is just getting a couple points and
getting something on the board.
Two out of the next like 3 games would be ideal for you guys, just to kind of like just see that playoff line still and not be multiple games behind out of the gate, you know. I think that will.
I'm gonna be worried, especially because I think the last game you said was what, Real Salt Lake is the last game of that stretch.
That's the first one in April. So theoretically, it's the first game that everyone should be back if the timetable
we can't true. That's the game we can't. We have settled into kind of what we are through March, and then maybe guys come back. We can't drop points in that game. That's like where we should really get things going again. But who knows? I feel like our defense is a little bit more suspect than it was last season too. But our defense was a little suspect last year. We were kind of streaky.
It also might just be product too of you guys not creating as much too, where it's like
just more. You're
facing more, and it's just It also, I think, like on top of it too, it's like the games that you guys were winning sometimes, like the overs in those games were like like 4-2s and stuff like that, where it's
huge result there for them though. I mean, they're going to be happy to take that home, especially 3-0 with the first half that they played. I don't think I would have predicted 3-0 for St. Louis there at halftime. I thought Galaxy deserved to get at least the goal, and they were creating enough chances to do that in the first half, and then the second half I think they kind of just fell apart a little bit.
We had that good chance from Peck in the second half that could have swung momentum, because that was before the third goal for St. Louis.
That was a 2-1. Yeah, that could have been.
I think that could have changed things. But that was unfortunate that we missed that way up. Oh, that was sad. That was a sad game to watch. My night was ruined.
it's how I would describe kind of the Galaxy, the Galaxy vibes right now. It is kind of a sad thing to watch. It's probably the most exciting team in the MLS last year has now officially been like one of the worst watches that you can have right now, which is really saying something. It's just not creating anything, but it just goes to show too, like I saw this posted and I really agree that somebody had said like Ricky Puig really should have had like so much more credit for like some of the MVP stuff last year than even was originally thought of, just based on like, I mean, what he truly means to this team's identity. It's pretty evident. And I mean, without him, I mean, they're last place in the West. And I don't think that's all attributed to just Puig being out. Obviously there's other situations, but it's like, it really just shows like without that tempo dictator in the system, like so many other players are having to be jostled and moved to different roles to help kind of compensate for that I feel like everyone's just kind of like uncomfortably playing right now. You know what I mean? Where
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, so it really is just kind of jostled out. But they just showed the graphic too. I didn't realize this, but Roman Berkey had 8 saves tonight too, which I guess
he played very well.
Very good saves as well.
He played really well. That was a good player to highlight.
He was so integral to their first place Western Conference finish in the first season to the team, and honestly was kind of like just so to good last year. And I think like if he goes back to kind of being like elite MLS goalie again, I think you could see St. Louis maybe surprise some people again with just kind of like, it really is kind of like a we build as opposed to like kind of like a me build where you have like the multiple pieces that kind of complement each other versus like kind of what the Galaxy did last year, where it was like their 3 designated players took over games, and it was like they kind of like tried to do their best to keep their head above water for the defensive side of the ball. Where it was like
sure.
they focused on just boat racing everybody and just like what, we'll outscore everyone, and that will work, and it did. So yeah.
Do you want to talk maybe a little bit about when to expect our next podcast and the next watch party? For predictions, all three of us drop, so we all do 1 and 2. In terms of community predictions, how does that kind of finish out then? We had
So
go ahead, Biz.
Let me see. I was gonna say community predictions. We had unless you had it pulled up.
I have pulled it up. They had Atlanta win, so lost there.
Okay.
Minnesota win and LA Galaxy win, so they're also 1 and 3, same thing as us.
Dang.
So yeah, we are all in a same boat there, and then we're kind of gonna parlay the all the community picks into next like this upcoming month as well. So through the month of March to see if the community ends up beating us, and then we'll have the kit giveaway. The other thing I wanted to, before I get into like next watch party and stuff too, I want to make sure anybody that is watching right now. So we're actually gonna introduce for the upcoming watch parties too some more. We're gonna do like channel point giveaways and redeems. I think we're probably gonna talk it out a little bit and brainstorm what would be the best way to do it. But we're gonna also have like a kit giveaway opportunity within the channel points section in here once we do hit like the once we hit like the affiliate stuff and stuff like that in here, once we hit like that necessary watch time and all that stuff, but we'll have that where you can redeem it if you watch enough of the watch parties and like unlock a kit giveaway for the grouping, which I think would be kind of cool. And we're debating if we want to do that as like a full community points tally or if we want people to be able to do it individually. So we'll talk that out. But yeah, next, I don't know, next taping, we kind of had to push it back just because I know on Pix's schedule, but we said Tuesday is when we're taping.
And then that episode will be out March 14th then, at the end of this week on Friday.
Okay, so Friday release dates, and then next watch party for the Google Doc. I know we scheduled them out, so let me see. I can pull it up really quick.
It would most likely be on the 23rd, on the Sunday, I think, unless it's like one of those goofy Saturday ones.
It's Austin versus San Diego at 12:30 Dill's time.
Oh, okay.
So 5 p.m.
That's kind of a fun one.
For England, and then it'd be 3 p.m. for EST.
Cool.
Got it. So Austin, San Diego. Austin, kind of as of right now, kind of like we mentioned, kind of a struggling team. And San Diego's off to a flying start. We did our first ever watch party, or we did, Galaxy versus San Diego earlier on this year, and watched San Diego's first ever game, beating the Galaxy in an upset. So we'll see how they're doing here in a couple weeks and see if they're still. I mean, I think they're number two in the West right now.
Yeah,
which is an insane start. So between them and Austin FC is kind of on a downward trend to start. So yeah, that should be fun stuff. Excited about it.
All right, sweet. Well, before we get going, Pix, any final words to the people? First watch party on the new channel. That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I just, it was really nice seeing so many familiar names pop up in chat. It's a new channel, so it's a little bit tough to grow, but it's really nice to have so many people who, we see chatting in all different streams coming by to support. So I couldn't be more thankful for everybody who stopped in, and couldn't be more thankful for, seeing a game with my buddies too. So I appreciate you guys as well.
Yeah, of course, man. Biz?
Yeah, much love, everybody. The support's always really cool. So yeah, we had, a solid 10 of you guys hanging out for the most part of the duration of this. And I think we're up to, already 17 followers off of the people that care about what we're doing over here with the North American ball. I know obviously that's not everybody's cup of tea with everything that's coming out of all of our communities. So I do appreciate that those of you that take your time out and just want to hang out with us. That's really what we want it to be, is just kind of a comfy place to come and hang out. Even if you aren't watching the games, even if you just want to chat and shoot the shit and, ask questions and, just be a part of things. We appreciate that too, all the same. So yeah, we'd encourage you guys to check out the next watch party that we have. And just take a peek at all the different places you can find us now, because it's literally like everywhere. All the social media avenues you can find, we are probably there. So
still in the infancy, and it's been fun kind of talking it out as like the MLS season has kind of unfolded and just learning more about everything. It's been really fun. Hoping the Galaxy can find some form. Biz, your team is probably doing the best out of all of ours so far, right?
Yeah.
As of right now, I think that win cemented the spot. It was kind of nervy times for the final 15 last night. We were weathering some storms, but big win on the road against San Jose gets us to 2 wins out of 3, and our one loss was to LAFC, who I think a lot of people would say is right now probably the favorite in the West. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about things. I'm excited to have a Champions League year of some kind would be the dream. It'd be so fun. So I'm hoping
awesome
at
to
least that. I'm hoping at least that for the year. That's the goal.
All right, then. I think that's going to be it for the first ever watch party. 3-0 against LA Galaxy, St. Louis City. Was that their? How many points were they sitting on before?
That was their first win.
That was
They
their
drew
first
their
win.
first two.
That's what I
so
thought.
5 points in
Okay.
total for the year for them now.
All right.
They didn't have goals, right? That was their first.
that
Oh
was-
yeah,
yeah,
duh. It's literally
not
right in
scored
front of
yet.
us.
They had not scored.
They do.
Yeah.
All right.
And 3.
Outside that, guys, like I said, Friday will be the next day to expect us releasing something, our next podcast, and then the 23rd of March for the next watch party. Other than that, we don't really follow anyone on this channel, so I don't even know who to raid. So I'm just going to go to Football Manager really quick and see if there's anybody English-speaking and throw a raid. I'll just go, okay, I'll go to Frodink Baggies. He's always a solid shout. But we'll definitely have to fill out this channel a little bit more. We just made it this week, so. But it's nice. All three of us can kind of do some work on it, so it'll be fun. But
Yeah, definitely.
other than that, guys, see you in the next pod on Friday. See you in the next watch party on the 23rd. And obviously, all of us stream at our socials as well. So we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.